about it like while it was happening, and they just like everything just kept working out for the Knicks. So it was just like, we can't make that sub.
Yeah. And Randall was also playing poorly.
Yeah. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. You guys should hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. We are brought to you by So Rare. We will talk about them in a bit. But first, Adam, I feel like you and I haven't done a show in a while.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I guess because I do the baseball strategy shows now, and then it's just been a lot of me and Lofty on these shows.
Yeah, I think it was last Wednesday, maybe. I don't think that I did a Thursday, Friday of last week, but I can't totally remember. So, yeah, it's weird. It's good to talk to you. I miss our NBA talks.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you enjoying the playoffs? I'm just kidding. I know you're not watching any of it.
I mean, I've been watching a little bit, and then I just go to bed.
Are you more I think I asked you this before, but I got to ask again. Like, are you more likely to watch it soon? Like when these games start becoming real? Like,
no.
Will you want to watch like Game 6 of Warriors Kings?
If I'm not doing anything else,
you're clearly not doing anything else.
If there's, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not caught up on Ted Lasso. I'm not caught up on Barry. Like,
just give up on Ted Lasso. That's what you should do. That would be better for you.
Supply
4-game slate.
Not going to like this show.
Who's not going to like this show?
Supply and demand.
Yeah. Please don't say Bam anymore. Well, considering I think he's my most exposed player right now, buckle up. And couldn't be happier about it either. Honestly, that's the one thing that I don't want to do. I'm contemplating talking about it differently on the show because I don't want the rest of the industry to listen and make the changes and cost me ownership.
Right.
But we're going to get into it. We got 4 games. Like, we actually have things to talk about. This will be the final 4-game slate of the NBA season, I believe. So you ready to get into this?
Yep.
Well, here we go. I don't know who that is. The New York Knicks are underdogs in Cleveland, but they do lead this series 3-1. 5.5-point dogs, 202.5 total. Dangerously close to sub 200, and I think they could get there if they got to Game 7. For the Knicks, we do have a little bit of a question mark hanging out there. That is going to be Quentin Grimes. We do not know his status. I actually didn't even see anything about shoot-around or anything for him. I did see it for De'Aaron Fox, but I haven't seen any news on Grimes. Don't know what that means right now. Assuming that he is in, we could take a look at the 2 most owned guys for the Knicks, and that's where we'll start. One is owned because his price is at an all-time low. The other is owned for interesting reasons. Let's start with the elephant in the room. $6,900 Julius Randle, power forward, center eligible, 32% owned. He has not been good as of late, but that is a new price tag for Julius Randle.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't hate it. It's kind of tonight's version of Karl Anthony Towns to a point. It's a tough matchup for Randle, and he has not succeeded in it so far in this series. He's averaged about 0.9 DraftKings points per minute. And so, like there's a expectation for what Julius Randle's price is going to be, and it's formed by 6 months of basketball. But if Julius Randle played the Cleveland Cavaliers for 82 games during the regular season, you wouldn't think of Julius Randle as an $8,500 9K player, most likely. So he's underpriced, at least in terms of it's still Julius Randle. He's going to get opportunities if he's playing well. He obviously will get more of them. He's certainly capable of going out there playing huge minutes and giving you a really big game. I think that it is, and you just run into these spots in the postseason where, you're just playing the same matchup over and over and over again. It's a very difficult matchup for the way he plays. It's a difficult matchup for him. And to some extent, I think it's probably an overcorrection, but lowering his salary in this spot definitely is correct.
Agreed. It was startling to see that it was 6,900 this morning. I obviously sent you that message when I started working through rotations today. How do you want to handle it, though? 30% owned. Is that correct? Is he under-owned to you? Is he over-owned? To me, there's a lot more upside, but there's just like the narrative component that makes you still feel really bad about it.
Yeah, it's so there's other spots that are also pretty cheap on this slate is the thing too. Even within this team, Julie's different position, but Jalen Brunson's $600 more and getting 2/3 of the ownership. Um, I think he's a good play. Clearly, we have him going a little bit under owned here. Actually, 35% on DraftKings, 35% chance of being optimal on DraftKings, 32% ownership. But I am concerned about it. I mean, he's, like I said, been a 0.9 DraftKings point per minute guy. Even if he plays 38 minutes, if he just keeps producing at the rate he has in this series, you're talking about like 34 DraftKings points at 6,900, which you can find in plenty of places. So, yeah, I guess the ownership is kind of just where it probably should be.
Let's talk about the relationship of minutes here between Randall and Toppin. Like, what's your expectation for Randall? What do you think his realistic ceiling is? We saw Toppin get a couple extra minutes this past game, but for the most part, it's been like a 33-15 split.
Yeah, which, that also obviously not great for Randall. I do think if this game's competitive and he's playing well, you certainly could get more run. In game 3, for example, Randall played 33 minutes, but he lost like 3 minutes and 40 seconds to garbage time. Toppin came back in and played those. If this game's competitive and he's playing well, I think it's likely you get like 36 from Randall, 12 from Toppin, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Similar page here. Then let's talk about the other guy pulling a ton of ownership. $4,800 Mitchell Robinson, 32% owned. I sort of get this one. This seems like the easiest one to get away from today. It's a 4-game slate. We have a lot of center value that exists up and down the spectrum. And the even more interesting piece of this one to me, a 32-5 ownership relationship between Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein. What do you see when you look at the ownership for Robinson?
I think it makes sense. He's averaged about 20. He's averaged about 26 minutes per game in the series. He's about a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. He's just cheap enough where, I do still like getting to him. I'm surprised that the gap is so big between him and Hartenstein. I would certainly rather get to Robinson at 4,800 than Hartenstein at 4,100. But if you gave me 9-1 odds or anything in that ballpark, 8-1 odds, I'm taking Hartenstein because there's just so many ways that can go. The bench unit plays well and Hartenstein plays more minutes. I mean, we're 1 game removed from seeing the second unit get hot and Obi Toppin play an entire fourth quarter over Julius Randle. Clearly, there's some percentage of the time that you just get a hot hand situation and Hartenstein gets the minutes. Then you're just going to have versions where you get 26, 27 minutes for Robinson, you get 21, 22 for Hartenstein, and Hartenstein just wins. It's not like Mitchell Robinson is some dominant offensive player. If he's not grabbing rebounds and blocking shots, you're not getting a great fantasy performance there. So there's just enough times that Hartenstein's going to win. I think that in large field tournaments where it can be, difficult to be different on a 4-game slate, Hartenstein's at least a way to do it at 4%. I would expect that across 150 lineups, I have more Robinson than Hartenstein. I think he's the better play, but I do think that gap between them is pretty interesting.
Yeah, you and me both. I understand why Robinson is getting the ownership. I have no problem with it. Feels not the best for a GPP. He just seems like the easiest kind of. There seems like so many different options that you can get to sort of not have that ownership in your lineup. In cash games, I understand for sure getting to him just because of his role for the team. But that number did stand out. I wasn't ready to see that. 4,800, though, is a nice price tag.
Yeah. I just expected him to be, 12% owned or something.
Right. Talk to me about the rest of the Knicks. Again, assuming Grimes is in, what do you want to do here? Assuming then Grimes is out, what do you want to do here? Does anything else actually stand out to you in either way?
If Grimes is in, 3,600 actually seems kind of interesting.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know the last time I said that Grimes was interesting, but if he's in and just good to go, I mean, it wasn't a lower body injury. There's a path to him, playing enough minutes to be a pretty good value there. He played 22 minutes in game 2, but there's times that he just plays really well and gets more minutes. Game 1, he played 27 minutes in game 1. He was in the closing lineup there for the last couple of minutes at least. So I do think it's interesting. I don't think that it's any sort of lock that, like, if Quentin Grimes is in, he's only playing 18 minutes or something like that. If he plays well, I think he kind of controls his own destiny in that, if he plays well, he can just get 26, 27, 28 minutes, find his way into the closing lineup. Because if he's in, we've seen it for a while now, you just get volatile minutes between Grimes, Hart, Barrett, and who am I forgetting?
Quickly.
Yeah, quickly. Where they can play multiple positions. So it's kind of just like whoever's playing the best out of those two, or, whatever the Knicks need. If they're playing from ahead, for example, you're more likely to get Grimes out there for more minutes. You're just going to see sort of, like I said, volatile minutes. So if Grimes is in 3,600 at no ownership is really interesting. If that ownership comes up, then, obviously the appeal goes down, but that would be interesting. If he's out, well, if he's in, RJ Barrett still is really cheap at 5,400. Hart's 5,100, getting 6%. That's one thing that really stands out to me about this slate, at least right now. I noticed it when I was writing my NBA article too. There's like just minimal ownership going to a lot of these secondary plays that do have a path to success, like Josh Hart, like Hartenstein. And it's kind of weird. Normally on these slates, you see people very willing to roll the dice on plays like that, but we're not projecting it that way right now, which makes it interesting to me. Josh Hart, getting 6% ownership. There's plenty of ways this game plays out where $5,100 Josh Hart's in the closing lineup. Barrett at 5,400, if he's knocking down shots, it's not hard for him to pay off that price tag. It's obviously a big if he's knocking down shots, but 5,400 is a cheap price tag there. Quickly at 4,300. I don't like him at, in this series in particular. Like if Grimes is in, I don't feel good about Quickly's minutes, but if nobody else is going to play him and you're playing 150 max, large field, top heavy, 100K to first tournaments, it's not like you have to get super creative to envision a scenario where Quickly ends up being good.
Right. Yeah. There's no scenario where you're surprised by that game in the long run. It doesn't seem like they're trying to unlock him in this series. And I don't totally know why.
I kind of just view this. I talked about it yesterday with the Clippers, where it was like, I have no idea who's going to be good out of these cheap guys, but almost by definition, somebody of like Morris, Batum, Covington, Eric Gordon, like somebody has to do well because there's the minutes there. That's sort of how I feel about this Knicks team, where if Grimes is in and you're getting 6% or less ownership going to all of Hartenstein, Quickly, and Grimes. Obviously, Hartenstein's not involved in the Hart, Quickly, Grimes minutes, but he has his own path. But like out of a $5,100 Hart, a $3,600 Grimes, and a $4,300 Quickly, there's so many times that one of them at least is at least playing the minutes where you're like, if I knew he played those minutes, I would want him at this ownership. What they do with those minutes obviously is a whole different thing, but you just look at it and it's just like, man, somebody here, when you see their minutes afterwards, you're going to be like, wow, I wish I'd had more of him.
Any thoughts on Brunson? I don't have much to say here. It seems like he's properly owned.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks good. 7,500 is pretty cheap. The Cavs don't have an answer for him outside of Isaac Okoro, who causes his own problems. Yeah. So it does put Brunson in a really good spot. It's kind of the opposite of Randall, where the Cavs have every answer in the world for how Julius Randle plays. They don't have anybody that can actually guard Brunson really, or that has been able to guard Brunson outside of throwing Okoro on him, who, again, is a zero offensively and has his own issues. So I do like Brunson. I like the upside he gives you. 7,500 is certainly a nice price tag, but you do have a lot of good plays in that price tag as well. And you always have a lot of good guard options.
Anything else for the Knicks?
Nope.
All right, let's go to the Cleveland side of this one. This is kind of the easiest piece to talk about because they have really concentrated this rotation in the minutes into their starting five, particularly once they got Karis LeVert there. A lot of ownership coming into Karis LeVert, by the way. 5,200. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. 47% owned. We're also getting 25% ownership to Jared Allen, 30 to Evan Mobley, another 20 to Mitchell and Garland. Is Karis LeVert the best play on Cleveland today?
As long as he remains in the starting lineup.
No reason that's not happening. So, well, yeah, I mean,
we just talked about the reason it might not happen.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I agree. I mean, because you're just going to be projecting him for 36 minutes. You can't get away from it.
Right.
Yeah, you're getting the perfect eligibility. I don't like it. Like, he's not a fun guy to want a roster, but he's going to be one of the first guys you're putting into a cash lineup today.
Yeah, it's just the minutes. He's like a 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy this season when he plays with Mitchell and Garland. So you're not thinking of him in the same sense as, like when he's the sixth man and he's just out there chucking, or when Mitchell or Garland are out and he's soaking up some of their usage in the starting lineup. It's not that type of play, but it's just that, assuming he starts, you're just looking at 36 plus minutes from him, and being on the floor that many minutes at this price tag with shooting guard, small forward eligibility is just going to make you look really good.
What do you want to do with Mobley and Allen? We saw Allen play 40 minutes on Sunday. We've seen Mobley in this 36 range, but he did get up to 39 in game 2. Both guys in this mid-6 price tag range. You get Mobley with the power forward eligibility. I really like both of these guys here today because I just think they're going to be out there for 40 minutes barring foul trouble. They don't have any other choices.
Yeah, exactly. You expect them both to play a ton. Mobley hasn't been very good in the series from a fantasy standpoint, only 0.8 DraftKings points per minute. Allen's at 0.74, but their price tags are cheap as well. And so it's sort of like Julius Randle where, am I super confident that Mobley or Allen have big games? No, it's a pretty unappealing game in general. But they're both just cheap enough where it mitigates a lot of that risk. You're not talking about your normal 8K Evan Mobley or your $7,500 Jared Allen. You've already gotten those price discounts that are more in line with the way they've produced. So it creates a situation where there's a lot more upside than downside, really. And neither one is crazy in terms of ownership. 24% coming into Allen, 31% to Mobley. Perfectly fine on a 4-gamer.
Yeah, I'm a little bit over on both of these guys. I see the one, playing for your lives, and 2, there is no pressure behind Mobley or Allen that like someone else is going to take those minutes. If they can be on the floor, they are on the floor. I don't think that there's any sort of wiggle room there. Who's the better play, Mitchell or Garland?
Probably Mitchell.
Okay. Both basically 20% owned. You're getting obviously a $1,700 savings on Garland. You don't get the MPE. I've got, like every other day here, I'm 2Xing Garland and basically not playing Donovan Mitchell. None of that feels fun, but that is what's happening right now. How do you want to handle those guys?
The thing that's really interesting to me is how much higher Donovan Mitchell's assist percentage is in this series than Darius Garland. Mitchell coming in at 36.5%, Garland's at about 26. So it's not like Garland is not involved, but you're seeing Donovan Mitchell, take on a much bigger playmaking role in addition to being the higher usage guy. Also 28% usage rate to 27% for Garland, 1.08 DraftKings points per minute for Mitchell, 0.95 for Garland. You are obviously getting the salary discount on Garland, and I think he's still a good play at 7K. I do think I prefer getting to Jalen Brunson if you can find the $500. But
you beat me to the question. Good work.
Yeah. But I like Garland at that price. He's going to play huge minutes. He's still a good, basically a fantasy point per minute guy. And I don't mean this to say that Garland can't go out there and have a big game, because he certainly can. It's just Mitchell, in addition to being the guy that you're clearly seeing the offense run through, given the assist percentage and the usage rate, he's also the one that's just more likely to go give you a Devin Booker game or, a Jimmy Butler game. Not that Garland can't, but Mitchell's more likely to do it.
Got to hit on the messages and super chat from Damian, member for 23 months, and hit us with the super chat. Said, thanks for the advice. I watch the show every day. Finally won 15K on Friday, and I have you guys to thank. Congrats, man. I bet that felt pretty damn good. Treat yourself. Save for taxes. Chetty's 10% owned. No one else is getting any ownership for Cleveland. I think it's interesting that Chetty's 10% owned and like Okoro doesn't seem to be participating in the ownership. Like if he's 10, then I'd rather just have Okoro, but I don't really want either guy.
Yeah, I don't really want either guy. Chetty, did play more minutes than Okoro last game. He's also the better point per minute guy. The case for Okoro would just be they don't have a Jalen Brunson answer, and Okoro actually did a decent job of it last game. Brunson, I mean, you could, if you weren't even watching the game and you were just tracking fantasy scores, you knew exactly when Okoro came into the game, because Jalen Brunson went from like, holy shit, this guy is going to break the slate, to, oh wow, Jalen Brunson's score hasn't changed in a while. And so there is certainly a chance where, again, must-win game, you actually had one thing go your way where you're able to slow down Jalen Brunson. It shouldn't surprise anybody if you see them at least give Okoro an early opportunity. Whether it works out or not, who knows? We've already seen Isaac Okoro start a game and play 2 total minutes in this series. It's not like they have a very long leash on Okoro, but it shouldn't surprise anybody if you just see them be like, all right, look, Jalen Brunson's been tearing us up. We need to stop him. Let's give Okoro the first chance, see how it goes.
I have nothing else to say here for Cleveland.
Me neither.
Karis LeVert, best play from the Cavs?
Yes. Again, assuming he stays in the starting lineup.
Yeah, that's not a fun thing to say. What is a fun thing to say, though, is to hit that like button. 1,100 people in here, 100 likes. We're off to a great start. And we've got 2 more shows coming up later today. We've got NBA Live Before Lock after this at 6 p.m. They're going for the full 90 minutes, by the way. So they're going to have that extra half hour. all the way up until that Lakers Memphis tip off. And then we've got PGA Live Before Lock tonight at 8 p.m. So 2 more full shows. What's that? 150 minutes of live content yet to come, plus the rest of myself and Adam. Great day to be watching the Stochastic YouTube channel.
I wasn't even specifically looking for it. I just happened to see it. So Jalen Brunson in this series, 1.13 DraftKings points per minute. That's in line with his regular season average. Do you know what he's shooting from 3 in this series?
I know that he was like shooting a staggering number, like unbelievable. I don't know what it still is after this one. He was like 60%, if I remember correctly. Or am I thinking about this wrong?
Wrong direction. 28% from 3.
Who am I thinking of that like hadn't missed? Duncan Robinson. Never mind. Okay. Obviously different person.
Yeah, 2 very comparable players. I see how you got them mixed up.
Well, I knew what you were setting me up for. And I think Duncan Robinson was like 10 of 13 or 15 of 18 or something dumb at one point in time.
No, the reason I was bringing it up was just like with Brunson producing at a high level against a good Cavs team. It was like I kind of expected to see the 3 the shooting is going to come down. 28% from 3 when he shot 41.7% in the regular season, and he's already matching his point per minute rates from the regular season. Like the ceiling on this guy is ridiculous.
The Los Angeles Lakers are 4-point underdogs in Memphis, 222 total. Lakers looking to close out the Grizzlies. Let's start at the top. I think these numbers will be slightly higher than what I'm about to say, but I don't think that they're going to be dramatically higher. 2% ownership to LeBron James at 10,300, 3% ownership to Anthony Davis at 10,200. What do you want to do with the 2 payups for the Los Angeles Lakers today?
I mean, if you can get there and I agree with you, it's not going to actually be 2%, but let's call it 6, 7, 8% owned Anthony Davis, LeBron James. Cool. Great. They obviously have very, very, very high ceilings. They are 2 of the best, highest projected players on the slate. The problem is that's probably forcing you down the Cedi Osman, Isaac Okoro path. You could, if you are going to them, somebody like Hartenstein ends up being interesting there. You get another low owned piece. He's, a value piece. Maybe you're going to Mitchell Robinson for a little bit more, but you can go to those type of guys. But it's a slate where the value you're talking about, it's, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson. So there are some low owned value pieces that we will talk about that I actually think are very interesting. Hartenstein being one of them. But the point I'm getting at is you have a very strong mid range on this slate. You have a lot of very, very, very good basketball players that are like, $6,000 to $9,000. And then on top of that, you also have Giannis. So that's, a whole nother thing where LeBron and Davis can go do their thing and Giannis can just destroy them some percentage of the time. You also have John Morant, you have Fox, like Sabonis, you have all of these guys that are just such massive ceiling players where I completely understand why the optimal percentage is so low on Davis and LeBron and why the ownership percentage is so low, because not only do you have to get one of them to, have a big game while contending with each other, but then you also still have to have it where Jimmy Butler doesn't go nuts and Fox doesn't go nuts and Sabonis and Morant and all these guys just have, mediocre games and lose out. So I get why the ownership's low. It's still appealing on a 4-game slate. If you happen to be looking at lineups where you're getting LeBron and Davis, I'd be happy with it. I just think it's pretty hard to do.
Yeah. And it's one of those situations where now that we're up to a 4-game slate, there are a bunch of these 3K options, but now there's so many of them that it becomes very difficult to funnel yourself to one. Like when you're sort of like forced to play Cedi or forced to play Isaac Okoro on these 2 gamers, then it becomes a little bit easier to stomach LeBron or AD because you don't need as many points. Now with this 4th game where like you get a couple of those 4K guys popping off and all of a sudden it's not really going to matter all that much what you have at the bottom. 15% ownership to Austin Reeves, 15% to D'Angelo Russell, who has not been ideal. Everybody else is in single digits here. What do you like from the Lakers, if anything?
So, I mean, I like Russell and Reeves. They're both very reasonably priced. Austin Reeves continues to just be fantastic. I had messaged you during the last game in head-to-heads. I basically needed like Anthony Davis plus 2 other guys, I don't remember who, to beat Austin Reeves by 25 points in the final game. And I'm like, oh, this is easy. And then he just Anthony Davis played the worst game I think Anthony Davis has ever played, but Reeves he's good and actually fun to watch too. So yeah, I think he's still underpriced here given the role he's playing offensively, the minutes he's playing. Same can be said for Russell at 6K. More often than not, you're just getting those, low to mid 30s in minutes. He fouled out last game. Otherwise, he would have played more. So certainly happy to get to those two. I think they are the easiest two to get to. I think that there's some value here that, fits into what I was saying earlier, where I'm just surprised that there's not more ownership coming into some of these sort of questionable plays, questionable in the sense of like they have very low floors, but they're also cheap. Jared Vanderbilt, Dennis Schroeder being the two that I'm specifically referring to here. We're one game removed from Jared Vanderbilt putting up like 30 plus fantasy points. He's 4,200 and projected for 3% ownership. Now, maybe this changes between now and lock, but on a slate where there's not a lot of cheap value, there are guys to pay up for if you want to go that route. I'm surprised you're not seeing at least a little bit more ownership come into Vanderbilt. Similarly, playing time is there for Schroeder, low to mid 20s. He's not playing a big role offensively, and that's why he's cheap and not popular. But that doesn't, just because he isn't playing a big role offensively, hasn't played a big role offensively, doesn't mean that he's never going to just have a random big offensive game. And he is $3,800. So both of those guys at sub 10% ownership just strike me as players on a slate with very little cheap value. If they're not popular, I like mixing them in. They are guys that I typically expect on slates like this to be like, wow, he's getting a lot of ownership simply because there's not a lot of other guys to go to. And we're not seeing that right now.
Yeah, I've got a 2x stand on Schroeder right now. I think there's a path to more minutes. If they need defense down the stretch, they're ripping Russell off the floor for that and switching to Schroeder if they can. That doesn't seem all that surprising to me. We saw him get 30.5 minutes on Monday, obviously based on Russell's foul issues. But, 24 seems reasonable for Schroeder. I can see a path to 26 or 27, and it really doesn't take much to pay off 3,800. Rui seems like the most difficult piece of this entire team to get to. 5,700 is a massive price tag right now.
Yeah, that price tag is rough. That's 2 games in a row where we've gotten around 22 minutes from him in regulation. It's just, he's going to play similar minutes usually to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt played 20 last game. Rui played 22, give or take, in regulation, 21. Now, Rui could play more. We did see that earlier in the series, but so could Vanderbilt. On average, though, I think you're just expecting like 22, 23 from Rui, 20, 21 from Vanderbilt. 5,700 just becomes tough to get to. Like, he's the same price essentially as Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, different positions, but I just don't really know how you make that play unless you're specifically saying like, I realize this is a bad play and I realize everybody else knows this is a bad play. So now it's actually kind of a defensible play on a 4-game slate. But outside of that, I don't really know how you get to it.
Mike Verderosa with the super chat. Since we're talking about this team, I'm going to hit it now. Would you set a rule for, what I assume you're saying is max 2 of D'Angelo, Russell, Reeves, and Schroeder? I wouldn't.
You said would or would not?
I wouldn't. I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think it's
that combination.
Right. I don't think it's necessary. It's a 4-game slate. Like, I wouldn't. This is one of those where, like, if I'm making one lineup or something, I'm not playing the 3 of them together.
Right.
And I'm making sure I don't. But if I'm playing 150 lineups and like 2 of them happen to have that combination, whatever, like the way that it still wins is just that they're all cheap. So like Reeves and Russell play 34 minutes apiece. They both have good games. And then Dennis Schroeder plays like 22 minutes or something. And he just beats all of the other sub 4K guys. And now you're good.
Yeah, I wouldn't. They're not going to show up enough. They're not good enough plays. There's not enough ownership coming into these 3 guys that combination is just going to be a big combination that's getting optimized. So wouldn't be something that I would stress about. But yeah, if you're playing one lineup, not going to be my ideal trio. Then we go to Memphis. A lot of ownership coming in here. Dylan Brooks, the Karis LeVert of the Grizzlies for today. 58% owned, 4,600. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. Do you see anything wrong at all with that ownership for Brooks, other than it's Brooks?
That is what I see wrong. So I get it. So this stood out too. Like I wrote that I thought Dylan Brooks was a good play, like in my article, just because he's 4,600. There's not a lot of guys in this range. You expect the minutes to be there. He's going to attempt to make shots. He's probably not going to, but he's going to try. And so I get why he's getting the ownership. I don't know why Dylan Brooks is getting 58% ownership and nobody else in this price range is getting any, or not nobody, but like Josh Hart's $500 more and getting 6%. Why is Dylan Brooks 10 times as popular as Josh Hart?
Grayson Allen is the one that stands out to me. 7%. I don't see these guys as all that different.
Right. And to be clear, like, I don't like Grayson Allen. I don't want to play Grayson Allen. I don't think Grayson Allen is a good DFS option, any of that. He's not 1/8 as good as Dylan Brooks.
No.
Yeah, I don't get it. So, like, yes, I understand why people are going to land on Dylan Brooks at that price tag with shooting guard, small forward eligibility. I have no idea why 58% of the field thinks he is like the clear cut answer here.
Yeah. I'm a little light, but like I clearly see he's a great play on paper, position, price, combination, all of that stuff. And from a cash game perspective, I think it's pretty clear you're probably getting to Dylan Brooks in your cash lineup just based on this ownership and his flexibility. But
right, I assume he's going to be in my cash lineup just because, like you said, kind of like whatever your build is, Dylan Brooks is going to fit it. And so that's why you're seeing the ownership. Like if you're going more stars and scrubby, 4,600 still helps you out. If you're jamming in the mid-range guards, a cheap forward helps you out. If you're jamming in, if you're playing Giannis or LeBron or Davis in the front court, a cheap guard helps you out. So there's a lot, no matter what your idea going into building a lineup is, Dylan Brooks can help in terms of giving you a lineup that looks pretty good. Now, can Dylan Brooks help in terms of making a shot? Probably not.
25% ownership coming into Jackson and Tillman. How do you feel there? I'm really liking Tillman in this spot. So I assume he's not going to play today the same way there was game one for me.
Right. I like the price tag on Tillman. Once again, you got a bunch of minutes from him last game, played about 36 in regulation. He's played well. Davis played awful last game too, which, certainly can at least in part be attributed to Tillman. At this point, I expect him to be playing at least like 30 minutes or so until I see that he doesn't. And,
I went 33. Like, I think that's the goal at least.
Right. And I mean, keep in mind the quote from, I think it was before game one, where Taylor Jenkins, because you and I kind of talked about it, like, what are they going to do with Tillman? And Taylor Jenkins basically said, Xavier Tillman's going to start. We're going to evaluate during the game if we want to keep going with two bigs or if we want to play smaller. And for the most part in this series, they've been happy going with two bigs. Now, that doesn't guarantee that they don't play smaller today, but at this point, we're 4 games into the series. And for the most part, Xavier Tillman's been a very big part of this rotation.
Yeah, big time help on D. What do you want to do with Jackson there at 7,800? I think he's appropriately owned.
Yeah, I think Jackson's the most underpriced of the main 3 Grizzly starters, and he is getting the most ownership at 7,800. You just get such a high ceiling from him because of the block upside. Obviously, you have foul risk, but if he avoids fouls, you're getting big minutes. Played 37 in regulation last game, and the nice thing about him too is, obviously he's going to be on, barring fouls, he's going to be on the floor no matter what sort of rotation the Grizzlies go with. But you actually have a little bit of added upside too, because if they were to go with one of those smaller lineups where Tillman's not playing as many minutes at center, then you are getting more block upside for Jaren Jackson. You are getting more rebounding upside. So there's even the potential for him to play more productive minutes than usual. So I do like him quite a bit at that price tag. If you get to Morant, if you get to Bane, both of them, goes without saying, have very, very high ceilings. They're reasonably priced. Bane's another guard in that mid 7K range, just north of Jalen Brunson, a little bit more expensive than Darius Garland, pulling 14% ownership. John Morant, 9,700, pulling 10%. You know what John Morant's capable of doing, and you fully expect him to play huge minutes here and do everything he can to win this game. It's just a matter of, can you get to that price tag, or are your lineups going to look better when you save $2,000 and just mix and match Brunson and Garland and, go even cheaper and go to Russell? Like, those guys are the reasons Morant isn't getting more ownership.
Anything else for the Grizzlies?
Luke Kennard's really interesting to me in large field.
I have a bit.
I really like the idea of Luke Kennard. Will it work out? I have no idea. But if anything cuts into Dylan Brooks' playing time, Luke Kennard steps up. Now, Dylan Brooks could get in foul trouble. Taylor Jenkins could finally get tired of watching Dylan Brooks play basketball. The Grizzlies get down and Dylan Brooks playing defense becomes less important than actually having a 3-point shooter that can make 3-point shots. There's, Kennard played 13 minutes last game. So clearly there's no guarantee that you're getting a lot of run out of him. But there's so many ways that he ends up being a useful part in this game at 0 ownership. I'm interested in Kennard.
You and me both. I have about 10% right now, so I'm happy about it. Glad we're on the same page. Folks, So Rare, the sponsor of this show, they definitely want you to hit the like button if you can. We're up to 159. They also want you to sign up using the link in the description or the one that pops up in chat. If you do that, you can get one free limited card after you complete your first 5 card purchases on the primary market. What is So Rare, you may ask? Think about it like the newest way to play fantasy sports, because now we're just talking about guys you want to roster. In this scenario, you are buying individual cards of players and you are keeping them. So you get to use them over and over again. And the more you use them, the more XP those cards gain, and they are worth slightly more bonus points just by having a card that you've used more frequently. You can buy, sell, trade these cards if you want. This has been around for a while. The soccer version of this has existed for like 3 years. They brought baseball on. They have the NBA as well. When you buy these guys, you have them forever. It's not just right now. You have it next year and the following year. You want to get in on somebody really early, you could have that card for their entire career if you wanted to. Limited cards are 1 of 5,000, by the way. So you're getting a really nice card from this deal. I highly recommend it. We do shows for So Rare that you can check out if you want to understand the mechanism a little bit more, but this is a future product. It is early for sure, but this is going to be the vibe that you're seeing in the future more so than anything else. At least that's the way that I'm looking at it. I love So Rare. I dip my toe in the water of the soccer product, particularly during COVID when nothing else was going on. Fun times. I think that you guys should be taking a look at the NBA product. I know Greg's been putting a bunch of time into it, and Neil, I believe, they've been running a show. So go watch the show. Sign up for So Rare. Sotex said it in chat. So Rare advertising on the TNT broadcast lately. Yeah, this is going to be around, folks. They do a lot of volume. Come check them out. Click that link in the description or in chat. The Miami Heat.
I just want to follow up with something.
Go for it.
Dub K said in chat that Memphis likes Roddy a lot too. Yeah, they do. The reason I prefer Kennard, if we're going down the unowned Memphis wings rabbit hole, is that like Roddy could step into more minutes if Brooks gets in foul trouble. But as far as what they do from a basketball sense, Kennard's the one that translates to fantasy points. Roddy's about a 30% 3-point shooter this year. Kennard's 49.5%. You get the added, if Brooks gets in foul trouble, they both probably play more. But if it's just Memphis is down and Dylan Brooks offensively is playing like garbage, as he tends to do, they're most likely not going to turn to David Roddy to solve that offensive problem. They're going to turn to Luke Kennard in that spot.
Yeah. And in general, I don't want to oversimplify it, but while it didn't happen in the most recent game, you're more likely to lean on guys that are vets than rookies. Right. And Big Body Roddy is new to this one.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's just a situation where, if you want to argue, I don't think I would agree necessarily, but based on last game where you got 20 minutes from Roddy, 13.5 from Kennard, if you wanted to argue that Roddy is the favorite to play more minutes between him and Kennard, again, I don't really agree, but sure. I'm not going to push back too hard. It's just, I think that the ceiling outcome that you're shooting for with these guys is more favorable for Kennard because he's the offensive answer.
I agree. The Miami Heat are 12-point dogs in Milwaukee, 220 total. Obviously, Miami looking for the upset to close this one out. Jimmy Butler, who just had one of the most legendary playoff performances we'll ever see in the last one. 15% owned, 9,400, small forward, power forward. Is he just a guy today?
Yeah, I mean, this is one where obviously if you get to Jimmy Butler, great. The ceiling is there. You literally have to look back 48 hours to see what it looks like. He's got the potential to, be great. But sort of like I talked about in my BetPro video earlier, you can't just change your Jimmy Butler projections based on what we saw him do last game. You can't start pretending Jimmy Butler's a great 3-point shooter or he's going to take a bunch of threes or any of this. He's going to go out there and play his ass off and he's going to have every opportunity to have a big game. He's still in a very difficult matchup. He is still relatively expensive at 9,400 on a slate where you have a lot of other guys in that range that look good. If you're making lineups that have Jimmy Butler and they look good, great. Jimmy Butler's a good play. He's a very high upside play. He is projected to go a little bit over-owned here at 16% with an 11% chance of being optimal. But yeah, to me, it's just another guy where we've said it about pretty much all the pay-up options today. If you get to Jimmy Butler, cool. If you get to John Morant, cool. If you get to Davis, LeBron, great. It's not somebody I'm going out of my way to build around.
Okay. Bam Adebayo's 15% owned at 7,100. How you feeling there?
Man, I like Bam.
For the record, chat, I'm not saying a word right now. We're just throwing this one to Adam.
I'm fully aware of the risks with Bam. One, it's a tough matchup with Milwaukee. Two, they are 12-point dogs. Three, there is legitimate foul risk in this matchup. I know I say it a lot. Everybody says it a lot. Like, barring foul trouble, he's going to play X minutes. Bam has been in foul trouble in, I believe, 3 of the 4 games in this series, even ones where Giannis wasn't playing. But obviously, with Giannis playing, that increases. There is foul risk and all of that. I think he's getting slept on here based on the fact that in every game in this series, something has gone wrong for him. If you were to play this, play a 100-game series here, in the majority of the games, or at least probably like half the games, at minimum, you're just going to get a game where nothing goes wrong. And he doesn't get in foul trouble, and the game doesn't end up being a blowout. And when that happens, he's playing 38, 39 minutes. He's averaged 29 and a half minutes per game in the series, but you can point to every game, either foul trouble, blowout, or both. If you get a game that is just relatively competitive down to the end, and he doesn't get in foul trouble, those are 38, 39-minute games. He played 20 minutes in the second half last game after playing 10 in the first half. Again, I'm not saying he plays 38, 39, but I think that right now, as an industry, you're just seeing people be a little bit too bearish on Bam because things have gone wrong in the first few games from a playing time standpoint. Also, he's been productive. He's averaged 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. This isn't a Julius Randle situation where Bam is out there playing like shit, not producing fantasy points, and he also keeps fouling and not playing minutes. He's producing when he's out there. His price tag has come down. His ownership has dropped. I get their different positions, and Julius Randle's power forward eligibility does make him look a bit better. Julius Randle should not be 2x, 2.5x Bam Adebayo's ownership at basically the same price point. Adebayo is producing at a higher rate. If things go according to plan, they're playing the same minutes. If not, Bam might actually play more if things go according to plan for both teams. There is obviously risk. We've seen it in all 4 games. And what we're seeing now is the field projected to basically decide that risk is the most likely outcome, which it just isn't.
I'm not going to say a single word. Right now, I have 57% Bam. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't have anything else to add. What do you want to do with 31% own Gabe Vincent? Because that's another one that just seems off given everybody else's ownership.
Right. This is another one where I understand why Gabe Vincent is popular. I can explain it. He played 29 minutes or so last game. No hero, no Oladipo again. He's 4,300. We don't have a lot of value. I understand why Gabe Vincent is popular. I don't understand why Gabe Vincent is 6 times as popular as Kyle Lowry, who's $400 more expensive. Lowry played about 24 minutes last game, played the final, I think, 15 minutes of the game, which is always nice to see for Lowry. Physically, he played 15 straight minutes. There is some chance he plays 28, 29 tonight. We've seen it happen in the postseason already. Again, like Vincent is going to be the guy you get to first. I don't think he should be 6 times as popular as Lowry. Max Strus is 4,500, pulling 2% ownership. Duncan Robinson is 4K, pulling 2% ownership. Max Strus and Duncan Robinson essentially split 48 minutes last game. One of those guys is playing enough minutes he's going to look good. I don't know which one it is. I like the idea of going back to Strus at low ownership. I'm perfectly fine getting to Robinson at low ownership as well. And there's some chance they play alongside each other. They didn't last game, but they could. But again, I prefer Vincent, but 30, call it 15-1 versus Strus and Robinson, when Strus and Robinson also have forward eligibility and Vincent is point guard only, point guard, shooting guard, but still, guard only, where you actually have a bunch of really good plays today. I get why Vincent is popular. I don't get why he's just dwarfing these other guys in ownership.
Same. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. There are a couple, I got to 12% Duncan Robinson. I'm pretty happy there. I'm going to try to get to a little bit more Strus. I just want to hit some of these bench guys for Miami now that they're not owned. I got to all of them when they were getting some ownership and it didn't go well, but this is just mixed up a little bit. We've got Kevin Love, 4,600, 13% owned. I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse, but I don't have any interest in this.
In
Love.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's fine. He's only getting 12% ownership. I don't hate it. As long as he stays in the starting lineup, he's probably playing 20 to 22 minutes. There's not a lot of value. He's probably correctly owned at 12, 13%. If you wanted to turn some of that into Strus or Robinson, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't really hate the ownership. I don't love it. I don't love him as a play. I don't expect him to play in the fourth quarter ever.
Right.
He's just kind of there.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing else to add.
Chat said Lowry's knee is suspect. Yeah, like if Lowry didn't have health issues, he'd be a lock to play 34 minutes a night and would be a hell of a lot more
He'd be the
expensive.
starting point guard.
Right. But the thing is, you can point to Kyle Lowry's issue. Gabe Vincent is Gabe Vincent. That's his issue. Strus and Robinson obviously have their own. It's you're talking about a group of very, very flawed DFS plays. And it's like we're just pretending one of them doesn't have any flaws and the other ones are like terrible.
Fun team to get to in a weird situation. Because like in theory, I'm terrified of Miami because I think that Milwaukee's just going to kick the shit out of them today. But like, that's not how I make lineups.
Right. Do you have any?
Go ahead.
Do you have any Highsmith interest?
No, none. I don't think that he's going to get those minutes like he did on Monday.
I don't either. I was just thinking like if he plays those first half minutes and then it ends up being a situation where like Miami just says, look, we're not winning this one, 4 minutes into the third quarter or something. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty far off the board for me, especially on a slate where you can find low owned value that actually has real rotation roles.
Right. That's sort of the reason. On the Milwaukee side of this one, 26% ownership coming into $10,400 Giannis. I think we're probably on the same page here. He is very clearly the best pay up option today.
Yeah. I still think it's kind of tough to get there, but yeah, I mean, 10-4 for Giannis. Like when you talk about LeBron or Davis being 10K, 10-2, whatever they are, it's like, yeah, that's, pretty cheap. They should be 10-8, 11K. Giannis is a $12,000 player coming in at $10,400 in a must-win game after he just played 38 and a half minutes. So no reason to be concerned about that playing time. He's one we had talked about the other day, like, that people were being kind of bearish on his projection. And you got 38 and a half there. Obviously, if they can rest him late in this game, I'm sure they would love to, but main priority here is winning this game. And he is really cheap.
He really is. I have nothing else to add here. I think he looks fantastic if you can get there. The other 25% is coming into Chris Middleton, 7,200, small forward. It's an interesting position. It's usually really hard to fill. I think he looks really good. I think he's appropriately owned. I like that price tag and position, especially in a situation like this.
Yep, same here. 7,200 is just a good price. He's going to play big minutes. He's a forward, which is really nice. Most of the guys in this price range that we've talked about and that we like are guards. So it's nice to get somebody else, at small forward. I really like that price tag on Middleton too.
What else do you want to do here? Because to me, Milwaukee is starters only. Drew, Lopez, Allen. What else do you see here?
So the rest of the starters are just interesting given the lack of ownership. I think Chris Middleton's a better play than Holiday given the salary and the position. And, it's tough to say, I really love Drew Holiday when I'm paying more money for him than for Darius Garland or Jalen Brunson or even Desmond Bane. But you're still getting 38 to 40 minutes from Drew Holiday. There's just going to be games where Drew Holiday ends up playing great. And the type of ceiling he has. Similarly with Brook Lopez. What was it, last game that he went nuts or 2 games ago? I don't remember.
Last game,
yeah. Like you're not expecting that to happen, but he's $6,400 playing big minutes and obviously can just go have another big game at 4% owned. You mentioned Grayson Allen earlier as a pivot to Dillon Brooks. He doesn't have small forward ownership, eligibility, so that's why you're seeing to some extent lower ownership. But we're still talking about, and he's probably going to play fewer minutes. Like with Allen, you're talking 30 to 33 minutes probably. Brooks, assuming he doesn't get in foul trouble or benched, is playing 36 plus minutes. So like you're getting more minutes. You have better positional eligibility on Brooks. Brooks should be the more popular of the two, but Grayson Allen's still going to beat him a pretty fair percentage of the time. He's not really getting ownership. I'm with you as far as not really being interested in the bench. If you insisted on rolling the dice on some Connaughton or Ingles, they are, sub 4K, they're whatever, but I don't think you need to do it.
I don't know what Wes Matthews isn't on the injury report anymore. I don't know what the plan is. I assume he's playing. I think they've wanted him for the Butler matchup. Connaughton wasn't out there in game 1. I don't know how much of that was injury related at that point in time, but like they cut Jay Crowder from the rotation on Monday. Wes Matthews is coming back in. I think you just see like a little bit less of Ingles and Connaughton. They already cut Portis's minutes. Like, I just think they're going to want what I wouldn't be surprised to see Wes Matthews play like north of 20 minutes today, but at the same time, you can't project it like that.
Right. And then there's also, outside of Wes Matthews, the fact that this is a must-win game and you could conceivably just be getting 40 plus minutes from like every starter other than Grayson Allen.
Yep. Also true. You want to close this one out with the most interesting game tonight, at least from a fun factor?
Yeah. And
2-2.
From a very difficult to talk about factor.
2-2 Warriors Kings. Warriors 1.5 point favorites in Sacktown. 234 total. That's 12 points higher than Lakers Memphis and 32 higher than Knicks Cavs, which is just really crazy to see. 44% ownership coming into Jordan Poole, 5K point guard, shooting guard. I get why it's happening. Man, oh man, that one scares me.
Yeah, it's a cheap price tag. So do you expect him to start or go back to the bench?
I'm treating it like he's going back to the bench.
That's my expectation.
I don't think it matters all that much.
No.
But it would surprise me if they didn't start Draymond Green today.
Right. I think they're going back to Draymond.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Draymond at center and sat Looney, if we're being honest, but I don't think they should do that. But I'd be surprised if Poole started over Draymond again.
Yeah, I mean, so I think Poole goes back to the bench. That makes the most sense. But like you said, too, it doesn't matter a ton because even if he starts, there's clearly some chance he's only starting one half. And then there's still no guarantee that he's closing games. So if he starts, sure, you're going to like him a little bit more just because it's better for his playing time. But I assume he comes off the bench. If he starts, I still wouldn't go too crazy with him. Yeah. But at 5K, even coming off the bench, if he plays 24 to 26 minutes against the Kings, that's a pretty solid price tag.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say here. I just think that price, his per minute production, expected minutes just looks good. What else do you want to do from the Warriors? Because I feel like every other starter, Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Green, Looney, I think they all look pretty similar relative to salary.
Yeah, I do too. They all look good. I don't know that you can really prioritize any of them. I saw somebody in chat earlier say Curry's a lock, which great. I'm not going to tell you shouldn't be playing Steph Curry against the Kings. I just want to know which one of D'Angelo Russell, Darius Garland, Jalen Brunson, you're just not playing at all because you're locking Steph Curry. That's the problem.
Also sandwiched in between Ja Morant and Jimmy Butler. And
right, exactly.
It's just
right. That's why you're seeing these 10 to 15% optimal percentages on the best players. And you're seeing these really high optimal percentages on guys where you're just like, this is disgusting. Dylan Brooks, guys like that. There's just so many of these top end guys that you have to choose between that it creates a situation where you really shouldn't, if you're playing multiple lineups, at least, you probably shouldn't be saying oh yeah, I'm taking my stand on Steph, because you're lying to yourself if you think that you're going to be able to just predict which one of these 10 stars is going to have the best game consistently. You should probably, if you're playing a lot of lineups, again, be spreading out your exposure to those guys and be more concentrated on some value pieces where you have less alternatives. But all that said, if you get to Steph, great. He's 9,500. He's facing the Kings. It's Steph Curry. Same goes for Thompson, Wiggins, Looney, Draymond at 6,300. I actually think Draymond at 6,300 might be my favorite of the starters, and he's getting the least ownership right now. If he starts this game, I assume he's playing 34 to 36 minutes in a good matchup, good point per minute guy. I actually, power forward eligible, he's the cheapest starter other than Kevon Looney, who's center only. I actually think Draymond's my favorite out of the starters, assuming Poole's off the bench.
No complaints there. Can't get to the bench here, right? You can't play DiVincenzo, Peyton, Moody.
I don't think so. I think it's the 6: Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Looney, Poole, Green.
All righty. We'll close it out with Sacramento, which has a bit of a question mark on it. I don't think it's a giant question mark. My assumption is that De'Aaron Fox is playing. I assume you're going with the assumption that he's playing until he's not.
Yeah. I mean, he said he's playing. He went through shoot around. I assume he's playing.
What that means, I don't have a damn clue. I don't know how this is going to work out for him. There is no ownership coming into Sacramento. 13% to the Barnacle of the Bay, Harrison Barnes, is the high man on this team. 11 to Sabonis, 7 to Fox, 9 to Herter, 8 to Monk, 6 to Murray. If you're getting to one guy from Sacramento, who do you think it is? Please say the guy that I have.
I
don't say the guy that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so hard for me to have a preference here. It's more so I like the Kings collectively because they're not getting any ownership. And it strikes me as a team where the fact that you can't confidently say exactly what the rotation is going to look like is just scaring people away. But that some combination of Herter, Barnes, Murray, is playing big minutes, and they're all relatively inexpensive with favorable positional eligibility, and they're all between 6 and 12% owned. Herder, I guess, is probably my favorite just because he's shooting guard, small forward, 5,600. He lost minutes last game to Keegan Murray playing really well, but typically you're getting 30 plus from him. But again, that's just sort of, I collectively like Herder, Barnes, Murray, to some extent Monk. He's gotten expensive, but still gives you a high ceiling. I liked him as a group. It's really hard for me to distinguish them individually, though.
Monk is the guy that for some reason I'm just getting to a bunch. I don't really know why. Maybe it's an ownership thing, and I can't really figure it out. It's probably a usage thing. Like, he does get the ball, that's for sure. Gonna need those 28 minutes if it happens. But Monk is the guy that I'm getting to. I am getting to Barnes as well, and I'm 2xing Fox. I'm hoping that people stay away at least a little bit. Do you want to get there at 8,800 today? 7% owned.
It's a really interesting tournament play. It's hard to be confident because, one, you have the point guard problem where he's more expensive than all of those other guards that we've already talked about. He's not that much less expensive than Steph or Morant. And then you also have the huge questionable piece of how do you quantify a guy playing with a broken tip of his index finger on his shooting hand. He said in his interview yesterday that once he got used to it, it was fine. I wouldn't expect him to say anything else, no matter what the case actually is. He's low owned. You know what he can do in this game. Anybody telling you they know how De'Aaron Fox is going to play here is lying to you.
Yeah, they are. I'm not confident. Like, in my brain, if you just want me to dictate what I think is going to happen, I think it goes really poorly for De'Aaron Fox today. That's just the way that I feel like it's going to go against Golden State. He could be totally fine and unbothered by it, and that would also not shock me at all. But I do like the idea of getting there at 8,800. It's just like a sneaky-ish spot. And like, you see Donovan Mitchell there, 21% owned at 8,700. That is another piece that makes me like it a little bit. And the big one, as long as we don't get any like really early news on Fox, people are going to be like generally pessimistic about it for most of the day. I don't think that he's just going to suddenly have a ton of ownership.
No. Did you said you were getting a lot of Monk. Did you do anything to account for the fact that there's certainly a chance that De'Aaron Fox starts this game and does not finish this game?
I didn't do anything for it, but it's the thing that's making me not hate the fact that I'm getting there.
Yeah.
If Fox was just okay, I might like take a minute off of Monk and then just be like, okay, I got 16% right now, whatever, that's fine. Right. But he takes one shot to the hand, and all of a sudden Malik Monk's playing 34 minutes.
Right. And I'm with you. I would view it the same way. I wouldn't be projecting a bunch more minutes for Monk because Fox is hurt. But if Fox were healthy, you'd be looking at Monk and saying, like, all right, I mean, he still can go out there and have a big game where you're happy to play him at 6K. But with Fox being hurt, it's like, okay, he can go out there and have a big game, but also you have more than a 0% chance that you get, a Malik Monk starting the second half, De'Aaron Fox still in the locker room type alert.
Yeah. Like, it is very live. It's the price tag that I think is, in a weird way, most appealing to Monk. The fact that he's expensive has made him into like a pay up to be contrarian option in the mid tier. But yeah, like, I have some Fox. I'd like that to go well, but I also wouldn't mind if like Kevon Looney karate chops him on the hand and the first time that he takes the ball to the rack, and all of a sudden he goes away and Malik Monk just becomes like the key offensive cog. Does sort of make me want to get to a little bit more Kevin Huerter in that regard too. Or, like Davion Mitchell's tough to get to no matter what. He's 4,900 now.
Yeah, that's
no matter what you want to do for that. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with Fox path. It's hard to make it Mitchell.
Yeah, the problem with Mitchell is, last game we got 27 minutes because they do like what he's done defensively. Like, the minutes can be there. It's just he sucks as a fantasy option. Sure like does. This is somebody that multiple times this year has started at 3K flat with no De'Aaron Fox and ended up being a shitty play.
Also true. Yeah, Malachi. Draymond bites his hand. I'll take what I can get. Honestly, that'd be fun. I'm going to be tired by the time I get to 10 o'clock, but I want to watch this game. I said it on the strategy show this morning. I don't usually make these proclamations. I think the Warriors are going to smack the shit out of them today.
I mean, you've been very anti-Kings for months, so I'm not surprised.
I have. I have. I mostly just want to be right in the end, because I've been beating this drum for a while. But that's where I want to be. I want to see the Warriors just pound them into the dust and just be like,
I mean, the problem now is you can't be quote unquote right because De'Aaron Fox has a broken finger.
Yeah, well, those people can suck it. We lost Draymond for a game.
Yeah,
for nothing at all. For nothing.
So I'll respond to this because I've actually been exactly right. Sean Dre said Herter's a no play. You've been wrong on the Kings. I was the one saying through the first, I think, 2 games or 3 games that I didn't buy this Keegan Murray is going to play 16 minutes a night, and you're going to actually get a very volatile rotation between Kevin Herter, Keegan Murray, and Malik Monk based on who's playing well. So I'm actually kind of been nailing the Kings. And again, I didn't say I love Herter. I said I don't know who I like out of this group. I like the group as a whole.
I'm going to have to put my Warriors hat and Warriors shirt on today for this one. You know what the sad part is? I don't have that much Warriors. I might have to just jack their projections up just so I have something to cheer for.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of tough to get to.
I have Clay of anybody. Like, I mean, I got Poole because his price is broken-ish, but I got the Clay. Anything else here before we get out of here?
We didn't really talk about Sabonis, but I think it's just tough to get to him, especially on DraftKings, center only. Not that much cheaper than Anthony Davis, playing like shit in this series. Again, certainly can turn it around. He's talented, but not the easiest matchup with a Green Looney front court. Hasn't had success against it. Very, very high ceiling at low ownership, but again, just tough to get to given the price on DraftKings, the position. Probably easier on FanDuel given power forward eligibility.
NBA Live Before Lock coming up next, folks. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to So Rare for being the sponsor of this bad boy. 90 more minutes of NBA content coming up for you. Don't go anywhere, but hit that like button on your way out the door. Or
Quentin Grimes didn't go through pregame warm-up.
Ooh. Well, keep your eye out on Grimes because we don't think he's playing, but who knows? They'll let you know on Live Before Lock. We're out of here. Peace.
Yo, it's that time of week again. Right here, the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Right before you watch Live Before Lock, we're giving out some free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, and inducting all of you fine people into the Hall of Fame. And we got some bangers for today. A laundry list of screenshots. We're going to go through all of them, do the bragging for you, and like I said, give out some free subscriptions to Awesemo Plus Platinum. All you got to do to get yourself involved here, get up on the board, get that month, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and you're in. Got the free month. You're inducted into the Hall of Fame. Let's get to it. Big dogs coming up in a huge way last week. Our own Eddie Lai. Barnes with the last-second rebound for the win. $100,000 win from Eddie in a little NBA playoff action. And Tom Kennedy. Been playing around with some tools we have in beta. Next season's going to be fun. Check out Stochastic HOF to see what an insane hot streak we've been on recently. Yeah, that is an understatement. Tom taking 100K. He got second in that for 15K. He also won the layup and came in second for 10 and 3,000. Like he said, messing around with the tools we have in beta and all the other tools on the site. Monster day for Tom. And then the Colts. Steve Buzzard. The heater continues. $70,000 in the shoot-around. Third place as well. God, the hits just keep coming. How about Hamburglar, too? Stochastic HOF. Been a while since I got a win. Listening to shows daily and appreciate all the content. $12 into over $1,000. Some NASCAR action in the Hall of Fame board today. Congrats, man. And Tim Hutchison. Been super involved in our chalkboard channel. Join that, by the way. Links in the description, and it's free. Been crushing on the parlays from the Bet Pro tool. Wanted to get Tim in here. Not getting the free month, but there's definitely a prideful moment. The heater continues. Pulled 8 props from the top of the Bet Pro. Went 7 for 8. And yes, I ran singles and all the 4, 5, 6, 7 pick round robin bets. Yeah, just some massive wins here from Tim. Congrats, man. Keep that going. I know you had a huge weekend in chalkboard. Ryan Golub finished second out of 55,000 in the 25-cent contest last night. Great tools led to a nice bankroll booster for a small stakes player like me. Hell yeah, dude. Second out of 55K, $250. And then Jeff Wilk, thanks for the content. I'm sure Ben Rasa is jealous that I took this down with his boy Grillo. $1,500 in the hybrid, first place. Congrats, Jeff. Cohen, I was a Wiggins 3 away from taking down my first tournament. Shout out to Live Before Lock crew, always dropping knowledge. $400, third place in the 15K end one. Congrats, man. How about Stuart Norris? $100, third place in the Friday piggy bank. And remember, guys, doesn't matter if you're entering 5 cents, 10, 25 cents, $20 $100 contest. As long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, we got you. You're getting up here and you're getting the free month. Like Dave Oliver, you guys are the best. Thank you for your great content. Great ROI. Yeah, man. $100, fifth place in the beanball. $125, first place in the Sunday wiffle ball. We'll keep it rolling. With Chris O'Neill, $400 to showdown, 10K and one. Just a simple man at Stochastic HOF. I get it. Michael Clement, thanks to Neil Orfield and Adam, best tools in the industry. Yeah, second and third place, both same lineup or same score. So that's $1,500 right there in the Monday MLB squeeze. Ooh, we keep running out of steam here. Oscar, $25 into $903. Huge ROI. Thanks for the great content. Not first place, but second is just as good. LFG, yes, it is also good enough for a free month. And a couple more here to close it out. Jeff, first MLB season, and I'm still learning. Nice win for the confidence and bankroll. Appreciate you all. $1,500, first place in the MLB 3K quarter jukebox. And Crash Money, a small win, but I'll take it all the same. Thanks to Greg, Neil, Laffy, Adam for all the great content. Appreciate Steve Buzzard taking time out from all that winning to help me refine my process in office hours. Yeah, every Wednesday, I think it is, Steve's in there in Discord answering questions and helping you guys out. Sean, it's been beautiful to see how great ROI, or see great ROI in such a tough contest. A nickel in the $75, I'll take it. How about a free month of platinum? You got it, man. Your team is the best around. Shout out to you, Sean. Thanks and congratulations. We'll close it out with CZIP. That's the Stochastic Hall of Fame, second and fifth place in the quarter jukebox. There we go, man. Collect it. Everyone collect them. Remember, at Stochastic Hall of Fame is where your tweets go, and stochastic.com/avatar is where you get that. Use it wherever you play. Get up here. Now been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome. It is another Stochastic NBA Live Before Lock, and it is special for a couple of reasons. Number one, I haven't looked too far ahead at the NBA schedule, but I assume this is the last potential 4-game slate of the season. Not exactly positive on that, but I'm fairly sure that is going to be the case. And we have a special guest joining us tonight. If you guys remember, there was a point in time where this man was a regular on this show, and he moved on to bigger and better things, but he is back for what might be the last 4-game slate of the year. Welcome, our dear friend, Eric Lindquist, at Eric Lindquist on Twitter. For Eric, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sponsored by SoRare today. We're going to be doing a 30-minute post-lock show, sweating the games, talking about any kind of late news that breaks, as well as breaking down some of our outlooks for teams going forward and how it affects SoRare. Eric, what's happened? It's been a minute.
Not much, yeah. Been a minute doing baseball and basketball tonight, so that's multitasking at its finest. Got my bets in, now finishing up my baseball lineups, flying around doing that. And then we got news about Quentin Grimes, more than likely not going to be playing if he didn't go through shoot-arounds. So now I'm updating a couple of things on the Knicks side. They're very popular in this slate. They're very cheap on this slate in a couple of spots. So kind of getting all of that done. But mainly, I did not die in the Pacific Ocean as Adam tried to lead everybody in the MLB strategy show astray and say that I was deceased. That's not the case. I've been hanging out in the Odd Shopper streets. Good to hang out there. Come follow that, hang out in those streets. It's a great spot to be hanging out. So yeah, really nothing else to add. A lot going on over here.
Yeah, totally fabricated. It was the Indian Ocean. People got to get these things correct.
I don't even think isn't it? That's like whatever. That's not the conversation we're having. Number of oceans.
We've got the different oceans. We got the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific. By the way, also, it's all one ocean. It's all one body of water. I never really understood. Did you ever understand why? It's
the same thing where I'm just like, Australia, it's, the only island continent. Well, no, because Antarctica, what is that touching?
Good point. Nobody knows. It's a mystery. It's been unsolved to this point, but maybe that could be your life's work after you, because it seems like you're not too far away from moving on from here entirely. Like we do, this is your first show in a month or something like that?
Yeah, my suspension's over. I mean, no, I mean, we're good. We're good.
Well, Eric really does not want to, he doesn't want to poke the bear. He's somebody who's gotten wiser as he has taken time off. He came back and he's like, I'm going to stick in my lane. I'm going to put my seatbelt on, and all arms, all appendages inside the vehicle as it moves. Eric is not willing to step out at all and dig himself in a hole. So we've got a man here who's learned his lesson, although we do have people in chat bringing up that you are the man who owns Raymond Felton in basketball, which is true.
I do.
That is something that happened according to Eric.
I mean, he's a bowling ball now, so I have a feeling right now you definitely put money on me. What is he going to do? Run me over?
He is built like DJ Khaled now.
We'll play to 50. He'll die. Like, be fine.
With that said, I saw you and Jay Kari play basketball to much less than 50, and you guys were.
I didn't know he was not a hockey player. He's a fake hockey player. He's a basketball player from high school. That was cheating.
And he won. He beat you.
Should we start talking about the slate now?
We could. We got a super chat.
I missed you, Greg.
Hannah wants to know. Listen, Eric, no more time for this. We got a slate to talk about. Hannah Banana wants to know who my favorite options are in each DK tier. So now, Eric, I know it's been a minute since you've been on here. Are you willing to help the people with DK tiers today, or should I do it on my own?
I'm so happy to help the people with DraftKings tiers here. We can go down the line together as one, tip to tip. Returning.
Let's do it for the first time in a minute, tip to tip. And tier one, pretty clearly Giannis for me. Liked him a lot last slate, even when his minutes were a little bit uncertain, and looked fine in that game. There were times where maybe he looked a little bit hobbled, but I mean, ultimately puts up a triple double.
You don't think Jimmy Butler's going to put up 73?
No, I think he'll score 74, but I think Giannis does even more than that.
There you go. Me too.
So the other thing too, just this kind of ties into tiers, but the overarching point as well. With the Bucks down 3-1 in this series, how many minutes do you think they are going to be willing to push Giannis, Drew, Middleton? You consider Giannis has had the bed back. Middleton hasn't been healthy this year. Drew's been pretty healthy by his standards for sure. But like, what do you think is the upper bound limit for minutes for guys like Giannis and Middleton? Because it does make an impact how we look at them.
Yeah, I think Giannis could play 42 minutes and I wouldn't be surprised. However, I think it would be surprising because you get to the end of the first quarter, end of the third quarter, seems to be times that they take him off the floor for those 2-3 minute stints. And maybe it just stays out there, but I think he still has those out. I have him for 38 minutes. I'm not sure what you have.
Yeah, so I put him in for 40, and that makes him show up in pretty much everything. Like, I think he's the best play on the slate.
Agreed.
And a couple of reasons. Number one, he's like, we never see Giannis this cheap. I know that his ownership is projected to be higher than it was last slate, but I think he's pretty clearly the best pay up option of the day. It's the price point. It's the potential for the minutes upside. The Bucks have their backs against the wall. Now they're on 3-1. We're now in must-win time for the Milwaukee Bucks after that crazy Jimmy Butler performance. Anyway, long story short.
Yeah, so can I add one thing on top of the Giannis thing, just while we're on the point, so I don't forget it? Do you know how many minutes he played in a game that they lost by 28 in an elimination game against Boston last season?
Tell me, because I have no idea.
43. So I feel like no matter what this game script is, when you have Giannis, who is like game script proof, unless they're up 40 or 30 in the fourth quarter, I mean, it's a must-win game for 3 straight. Giannis is going to play seriously as many minutes as possible to just make it, no doubt, done. I'd be shocked, even if they're up 20, if they took him off the floor with 6 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is just like, can he physically handle that many minutes?
I guess that's the question mark, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I have him projected for 40. So that's the way I'm leaning.
He didn't look bad to me in 38 minutes in Miami.
Yeah. So the other thing too is there isn't really, unless you are just wrong with the amount of minutes you project him for, there isn't a way for him to project poorly at this price point.
Correct.
So playing Giannis, playing lots of them, somebody to get to for sure. Moving through the tiers, tier 2 for me is Ja Morant with Steph Curry a little bit behind him. But for me, it is Morant as the tier 2 guy. He's been a tier 1 player for most of the season, and no concerns about his hand either. There was a point where I was his first game back, and it was also a really weird scenario where we didn't get the news until really late. It seemed like he wasn't going to play. And then I had real concerns about how healthy he was going to end up looking, particularly shooting. Looked fine. That first game scored 78.75 fantasy points. Now the follow-up game, he only put up 41, but it's still not the end of the world there. So Morant, I think, is pretty clearly for me the top option in tier 2. Who do you go with in tier 2?
Definitely Ja Morant.
Tier 3 for me is Donovan Mitchell, another player who, I have some concerns about the pace of play in the Knicks Cavs game because the total is 202.5, so like 20 points lower than any other game on the slate. But same scenario. Cavs are at home here. They are down 3-1 in the series. Mitchell might play the entire game. I like getting to Donovan Mitchell in this tier. Who is your favorite tier 3 option?
Jaren Jackson Jr., right behind Donovan Mitchell if you're looking for a contrarian option. I have him a little bit closer. But I'm with you where Donovan Mitchell probably has the unlimited minutes. It just seems like the Knicks have figured out some pretty good stuff to be able to contain him, but getting out of the Garden feels like a cursed place for Donovan Mitchell. So I'm with you. I think probably a good spot for him.
Jalen Brunson's been better than Donovan Mitchell this series. I don't really think there's too much doubt about that. Not saying who's better overall, but in this series, who's played better? It's been Jalen Brunson. He is my favorite option in tier 4. Who do you like in tier 4?
Sorry, Adam just sent me something to try to apologize. I don't care about him at the moment. Jalen Brunson. Yes.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson for me. I think Randall is kind of an interesting contrarian option, but he's somebody who's really hard to know where he's at health-wise. He starts the playoffs with a bum ankle. He was listed as questionable for the first game, ends up playing. If you think about all the minutes that Randall logged in the regular season, 27 minutes for him last game. He hasn't top 34. He hasn't played particularly well relative to what we saw from him in the regular season. So I think Randall's a decent contrarian option if he's able to get back on track. But my actual favorite option there is Jalen Brunson. Tier 5, I'm going with Evan Mobley in tier 5. Yourself?
Evan Mobley, definitely. He's but like clear cut. That's probably the tier that I'm the most confident about. Evan Mobley being the winner.
Probably Giannis for me in tier 1.
I mean, AD, LeBron, and Jimmy Butler all have crazy upside. Whereas like I look at the rest of this tier and like Evan Mobley could have a floor game and still would be pretty close to just about everybody there. I mean, Brook Lopez played the most outlier basketball game I've ever seen last time around. Played 39 minutes. That's useful. But I think Evan Mobley in a closeout spot, when we haven't seen an Evan Mobley eruption spot within this series, it's coming.
All right. Tier 6, phrasing, by the way. Tier 6, my favorite option is Kevon Looney. So also something that's kind of relevant here. I'm assuming that Draymond Green starts. I'm not 100% positive he's going to. He didn't start last game. He did come. He came off the bench to start the game. He started the second half, though. I think Draymond Green starts this game. I'm not positive. Looney will look better if Draymond comes off the bench, more rebounding opportunities. But either way, Looney's my answer, whether it's Draymond starting or coming off the bench.
Yeah, he's the best fantasy point per minute producer in the entire group. He's going to play over 30 minutes. He is offensive rebounding like an absolute man possessed. And Kevon Looney, just fantastic.
All right. So we have a consensus there. Hannah, thank you for the super chat. We do appreciate it. If anybody has questions for us in our Discord channel, hit us up. We'll be answering those as we go along. And also, as I mentioned at the top, we're sponsored by So Rare today. And then also we're going to be doing a post-lock show where we talk a little bit about So Rare, sweating the games, also talking about how we think some of these teams project going forward. And if you guys haven't signed up at So Rare yet, use the link below in the description box, because when you do sign up using that link, you decide to purchase up to 5 limited player cards over at So Rare, you're going to get a 6th one totally for free. So that is definitely something to take advantage of, and it's totally free to sign up at So Rare as well. Buying cards is optional, but if you're going to take advantage of the offer that we have there, Ski Mask wants to know any love for Matthews tonight against Jimmy Beans. So Wesley Matthews, no.
I'm kind of interested. I talked about him a little bit last night on Lindy's Leans Likes Locks, where I think that that's a piece that could end up actually mattering from a defensive perspective, getting him back in the mix. It was a calf injury, though. It was a lower body injury. He's 3K flat. I would say I would be more inclined to, if I'm going to play Wesley Matthews, maxing out my salary, because amongst all the 3K plays, he's the one guy that I think is actually in play for it. And I would want to try to build around that. I wouldn't want to leave like $300 or $400 and have somebody else have an opportunity to be optimal in that lineup.
How many minutes are you expecting Wes Matthews to play?
I have him for 12, but like, I think that there's upside for more if they need somebody, because defensively, that was kind of the major issue, right? Like there's some ineptitude when you have Grayson Allen taken over, when you're putting him in the pick and roll situations. Like you're trying to get Butler away from Drew and from Chris Middleton. Like I think putting Wesley Matthews out there actually would make some sense. Now, again, I have a lot more minutes, a lot more faith that he's going to probably see some kind of rotation. He did close that one game. It was game 1, I believe it was, the last time that we saw him. It was just a blowout game. So you can write that off if you want to, but he had played some rotational minutes before it. He's a vet. He's been there for a while. Like I think Wesley Matthews might actually play a little bit more than you think.
So here's the issue I have with, by the way, it's a punt play. There's a lot of stars too, but one thing that's really hard about this time of year, especially now where we're like, could Donovan Mitchell play all 48 minutes? So here's what happens in these kind of scenarios. Obviously, Mitchell looks better, but then also, and I'm just using him as an example, I don't mean to single him out, but like we're expecting Giannis to play extra minutes. I think Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. So those guys all project better. But then on the flip side, we get some of these role players like a Wes Matthews. If I'm going to expect 40 plus minutes from Giannis, from Middleton, it doesn't leave a lot of minutes for some of these ancillary pieces. And what makes it hard, though, is all these studs project really well, but because they project so well, the value guys kind of project shitty. So I don't project Wes Matthews well. I don't even think he's a lock to be in the rotation tonight. But to your point, I think that it makes sense to get to him just from a standpoint of, all right, he could end up playing. He did close another game in the series. And another thing, too, is if a lot of these stars, Giannis, Morant, Curry, like all go off for like 60 to 70 fantasy points, you're just going to need them in your lineup. And then if you get one of these role players that go out and play 12 minutes and score like 8 fantasy points, that actually could land them in an optimal lineup.
Yeah. So Wesley Matthews, I talked about it with a buddy last night because we were going through like, do we think Wesley Matthews actually gets in the rotation? That was a serious conversation we had. And then I talked about it on my show. And I thought about it like the 1K punts you have in Showdown on DraftKings. Like if 4 other pieces go completely nuts, or 5 other pieces, I guess it would be, go completely nuts, sometimes a 1K captain who plays 6 minutes and puts up 7 can end up being optimal. Like that's a thing that actually happens in Showdown from time to time. And with how consolidated the minutes are, how bulky some of the minutes are going to be in spots, I'm more inclined to try to make that kind of the framework of what I want to try to do to get a Giannis, Davis, Morant in the same lineup, a Giannis, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. Like you don't have to look too far away from seeing 73 for Jimmy Butler, 70, whatever it was for John Morant. Like these guys have insane ceilings. And now some of them have their back against the wall. You and I are in the same boat. Giannis being the preferred piece. I have him in over 60% of lineups. He's going to stay there. I think there's just a path where a Wesley Matthews, if you can find that one guy, and again, we're singling him out. He does have the multi-positional eligibility, but like those lineups specifically, I'm trying to max out salary so I don't have other 3K pieces that have a chance to surpass him. It would be 3K flat or bust.
Yeah, and we'll go through some more of our favorite contrarian plays and ways to save money as we go through, but more of your guys' questions. This one is from Michael McKinney. And by the way, also my final answer from Ski Mask. So we did say any love for Matthews. It's hard to say I love him. I think he's viable.
He's viable. And that's like a compliment, because how many times are we looking for like a 3K guy that could just flip the script? I don't think he's necessary by any means. If I were making 20 lineups, I doubt I would do it, but I'm making enough lineups where I'm going to be playing some Wesley Matthews.
And we have a super chat here. FanDuel question from Michael McKinney. Who are the 5 must plays on FanDuel? So if I look at the lineups I've built on FanDuel, some uncomfortable players that I got the most exposure to, particularly one Dylan Brooks, who, boy, has this guy been a firestorm, and like just somebody, a magnet for gathering attention right now, and for almost all the wrong reasons. Like there hasn't been one single positive thing that's come out of Dylan Brooks as of late, but he played 41 minutes last game. He's going to play big minutes again today. He's priced down on FanDuel. He also has good positional eligibility, shooting guard and small forward. So these are the players I end up getting the most of. Dylan Brooks, Evan Mobley, Gabe Vincent, Jaren Jackson Jr., D'Angelo Russell. I've been playing a decent amount of in this series. Do you have FanDuel lineups built out by chance, Eric?
I'm not playing FanDuel today, no.
Okay. So either way, those are the guys that I would consider the 5 overall best plays from the standpoint of when I made lineups. Those are the players I got the most exposure to, Michael. The next question here is from, let's see, was there more in here? Thought there was one more. Oh yeah, here it is. So we got a question from another one from Ski Mask. He wants to know best utility for $4,800 or below. Let's see, 4,800
I don't
want
to say Dylan Brooks. I mean, this is DK again?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, Dylan Brooks is probably the right answer, but I am getting away from 55%. We'll talk about him, I'm sure. I know he makes sense for a value play perspective for today, but he's the right answer.
Yep, it's Dylan Brooks for me, and it's just the minutes, it's the price point, and he's even more favorable looking on DraftKings than on FanDuel because he's even $300 cheaper. I think there's a pretty solid floor on him at $4,600 as long as he doesn't punch anybody in the balls. Like last game, he largely sucked. There was no usage. He didn't make a high percentage of his shots, and he put up 23.25 DraftKings points in 41 minutes. That's very much a floor type game where he's 0.5 fantasy points per minute, and he still was kind of acceptable relative to the salary at 4,600. So Dylan Brooks is going to be my answer. Just because you said you're not a big fan of Dylan Brooks relative to his ownership, do you have a secondary option you'd go to for that price point?
See, I mean, it's more of the price point thing. For me, it's more of like a lineup construction thing. Seems as though a lot of my lineups, other than the Wesley Matthews ones now that apparently we've singled that out, I think I'm just kind of going a little bit above it. Like there's so many cheapies relative to their season-long salaries. Julius Randle, pretty hard to not click on, even though he basically was a decoy in that last game for Jalen Brunson to just run the middle, have Evan Mobley go out and guard the three-point line. I do think that there is a massive ceiling for Julius Randle here, but now he's pretty owned. It's just going to have to be him going 8 for 12 from 3, which he had done previously in a game against the Cavs this season. A lot of these like mid-range guys, 5, 6K, I'm just getting to a ton of them. I'd say my second favorite, probably Gabe Vincent, but I hate that ownership too.
Anybody who's cheap that's going to play minutes today is massively popular.
This is very true. And they probably should be. I would say that kind of makes it very interesting to try to get to the Obi Toppins of the world, where he could play 18 minutes and close if they just decide that, hey, it's not going to be Julius Randle going forward closing because of whatever's going on there. I guess he looked uninterested in game 4, which is pretty wild for a team that was right in the thick of it, dominating with Jalen Brunson in the Garden going nuts. To have Julius Randle be as checked out as what he was, I think Isaiah Hartenstein makes some sense there at 4,100. I mean, those are the kind of guys pulling no ownership right now from that same team that from the Knicks side that I think are just underappreciated for this kind of a slate.
So getting back to Julius Randle, because we talked about him briefly before, and I think he's one of the toughest players to figure out on today's slate because I just think the issue is that he's not 100%. He sprained his ankle towards the tail end of the regular season. Yep. He sat out a couple of games, but it was uncertain to me. Like, is he actually hurt right now, or are they just resting him because these games aren't all that important? And then he listed as questionable for game 1 of the series. He ended up playing, but he just hasn't looked like himself. What are you expecting from him from a minute standpoint? Because I think the main issue with Randle is that he hasn't been 100%, but you never know when that game is going to come where he just feels back to himself.
And that's exactly it. I can't identify it. I just know he hasn't been moving laterally. He has not even really attempted to go at Evan Mobley like this entire series. And I'm really highlighting game 4 because I watched that entire thing and it was just kind of astonishing how much different he was playing then compared to what we've seen all season long. Like we watch a lot of basketball. Julius Randle's been very active. He's been a very willing shooter from 3. He's had a lot of things that he just didn't look like the last few games. But now the price accounts for, as you said, he's going to be feeling better soon. And there's been a couple of these slates where Julius Randle ended up a lot less popular than what I was expecting, which we could be running into again. I think there's something there where people see 12.5 and they are just scared shitless. He was not nearly as popular as what I was expecting at 7,700 last slate. And now I guess I get that it's gone to the extreme side of it, but like I find there to be an opportunity. And the ceiling is like, you need him, where he puts up 55, 60 because he just knocked down 7-8 threes. And I think that that's a very real possibility because the Cavs have to make adjustments. They got to just hand it to them in the Garden.
This seems really dumb, but I do wonder if the absence of Quentin Grimes helps the minute ceiling for Julius Randle, because we know that Tom Thibodeau
not dumb at all. He loves playing his dudes.
But the other point too is he loves playing his dudes. He doesn't like to play guys that aren't his dudes. He likes to keep a tight rotation. He's had to get away from Randle a little bit just because Randle hasn't played well. Yeah. But he has one less of his guys to play now, and even though they play different positions, it's reasonable for me to look at the Knicks tonight and just think like, all right, Randle's minutes may be a little bit more secure because Grimes is not expected to play today. And that is news that, at least relative to this slate, is probably the biggest news that we're going to get, Quentin Grimes being out. But I do think it helps Julius Randle, even if they don't play the same position.
I 100% agree with you.
Next super chat that we have here is from James Magruder. He wants to know, is it okay to play both New York centers in the same lineup? So meaning Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson, I assume he means.
I could see it working out. I just think that you're probably better off. You're probably better off on this slate. I mean, it's so hard because Hartenstein, he was 3,800 last slate. He's 4,100 on DK now. I would probably lean towards no, because Hartenstein is going to be playing 18 minutes max if Mitchell Robinson's out there playing well. They ended up just sticking with that closing rotation. They were playing so well in that fourth quarter, and they needed something after Darius Garland went nuts in the third quarter and that entire second half. It just clicked and they stayed with it, which, again, I don't think enough coaches do enough of when it comes postseason time. Like, go ahead and bench Julius Randle. You're trying to win that game. Like, if it's working, don't mess with it just because it'll hurt some stars' feelings or something. But I would be gearing away from it today. How about you?
If this was, so here's where this playoff slate is different from other ones. At the top, first thing it says, this might be the last 4-game slate we play this season. Mm-hmm. So many of the recent slates have been 2-3 game slates. And if you just set too many rules, you're restricting yourself from building good lineups on a lot of them. So on a 2-game slate, I would have less issue playing Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein together. But for today, particularly for somebody who's hand building one lineup, there's so much negative correlation because they're not going to share the court together. So for me, it is a no today. And then we have a follow-up super chat that I think also bears us talking about because it's related. Ski Mask said, any chance that Mitchell Robinson continues to get 30? Yeah, he just has to avoid foul trouble, which is occasionally an issue for him.
Correct.
Is Mitchell Robinson somebody you're getting much of on this slate?
Yeah, but I will say that let me pull up the recent ownership here, because you're talking about Julius Randle being the most difficult. I find Mitchell Robinson to be the most difficult player on this slate. He played awesome in that last game, was active defensively like you'd expect. He's one of the better center defenders in the NBA and great at protecting the rim. He's been that dude, but not seeing him close. And then we know the usage is never going to be there, especially not in a playoff series. And both games in Cleveland, he played 26, 21 minutes, got it extended to 30 and 27, the last two. And it just feels like I'm much more on the Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson side of this one than I am the Mitchell Robinson side, unless I'm going to start just playing 4 or 5 Knicks in lineups to a certain extent. Like, I'm having a tough time. I was over the field in my last crunch. I'll throw that out there, but I'm still kind of going back and forth. And now with baseball locked, I'll be able to finish that out.
Yeah. So that was also something I was doing, was finalizing some baseball lineups.
Just made sure it all got through. I'm sure other people in chat, you're doing the same thing we are.
But also, because I'm not like your nemesis, Adam, I'm very capable of multitasking, holding a conversation and listening to you.
Me too.
Like click a couple buttons on another computer. So it wasn't like I wasn't listening to anything you were saying there. And a lot of it, I think ultimately we are really on the same page. But the other thing too that we should talk about, and this isn't going to come as a surprise to anybody, with Quentin Grimes, I love getting to Josh Hart as well. He's somebody who I get a lot of exposure to and actually is my most rostered Nick right now.
See, I'm still kicking myself from Sunday. So I didn't play a lot of Josh Hart. I thought he was a little trappy, and he played about as good as you could possibly expect. Now, he ended up more popular than I thought he would be at 18-20%. So I was kind of okay with it. And now at 26% on a 4-game slate, I'm really having second thoughts because for the season, 0.86 fantasy point per minute guy, played 40 minutes. Like, I feel like the Knicks, less so than other spots. Like, if this game gets out of hand, you're probably getting a floor from Josh Hart, and he's probably only playing 28-30, and you're dead. But there are a lot of iterations of this game where Josh Hart gets you 8 rebounds, couple of steals. Like, he's out there doing enough. And then he's at 5,100. And there are not a lot of guys in the mid 4s, upper 4s, and then low 5s that I want to be playing on this slate at their current ownerships. Like Dylan Brooks, I'm below the field on. Karis LeVert, I'm right at the field on. Like, Josh Hart just feels like another chalky option, but he feels like he's kind of necessary to a certain extent. And that's where I'm just like, how many Knicks are too many Knicks for each one of these lineups? Because it feels like they're going to be overlapped a lot on this slate. And it's purely just price, and it makes sense. But I feel like I'm going to be running into a lot of duplication with a lot of other people on this slate. And maybe we get some surprise news coming up later. Doubtful on this slate specifically, but it's happened a number of times throughout these playoffs already. And maybe just not having 4 Knicks in your lineups is the path to having a little swappability, be able to react to those first couple games and kind of let it land from there. I'd be surprised if 4 Knicks ended up optimal, and they're just all so popular.
So I don't have any lineups that have 4 players from the same team, and not even by design. It was just the way it worked out for me when I built out lineups. So I don't have any lineups with 4 Knicks.
Yeah, I do. When you say that, it's like I just ran through it, and I have a number of 4 Knicks. Just Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson. I mean, those 4 specifically are showing up in lineups for me together.
Yeah. And I mean, individually, all guys I get to, but just no individual lineups where I have, 4 Knicks popping up in them, which obviously I feel pretty good about. I'm cool with not having 4 Knicks in any lineups right now.
Exactly. That's what Charles ZZ is saying. Exactly what I'm thinking. It's like 4 Knicks and a 202 total, and they are massive well, not massive dogs, but decent dogs. Like that's exactly my point, where it's like, I think getting down and trimming some of the fat and having too many of these Knicks might not be getting away from some of the ownerships we're projecting right now might be the right path.
Got a super chat here from my Philarch, wants to know RJ Barrett or Josh Hart. I have more of Josh Hart right now.
I didn't even say RJ Barrett's name in that grouping. Yeah, I definitely have more Josh Hart at the moment, but I'm kind of flip-flopping what I want to do here. We're probably going to get to lock, and Josh Hart's going to be like 30% and RJ Barrett's going to be like 18, and I'm just going to be kicking myself. Like that's a very real possibility. So I think as it stands right now, looking at our ownership, if they're going to be pretty close, I'll take the $300 discount on Hart, but I have a feeling RJ Barrett comes in a little bit underappreciated.
Yeah, so right now we have Josh Hart projected for, I'll do this for DraftKings and FanDuel. DraftKings, in our ownership projections, Josh Hart is projected for 26% ownership, Barrett at 21%. So at least in our ownership projections, not a big gap between the two. FanDuel, Josh Hart is projected for 14% ownership, RJ Barrett projected for 8% ownership. So Hart a little bit more popular, but he's also a little bit cheaper. And then when you also pair that with the fact that, he's a little bit cheaper, also, I think probably a little bit better of a fantasy producer as well, Josh Hart, because he does some more of the ancillary things like rebound. You're not getting as much out of RJ Barrett. So Josh Hart is the lean for me. And unless things end up being different from what our ownership projections are, I'm cool with more of Hart than Barrett.
Okay. That's fine.
And by the way, if you guys want access to our ownership projections and all the other tools we have over at stokastic.com, if you haven't signed up for a package yet, use the link below. First time you sign up, you'll get 50% off any package you choose. And by the way, it could be multiple things. You want to check out the lineup generator? We've got a 50% off deal for that. And you get access to that then less than $5. Lineup generator, super, super valuable, particularly at this point in the season where you don't have to worry too much about the late swaps and all that. You could just kind of set your lineups using the lineup generator, upload them right to DraftKings, right to FanDuel, and forget about it. So check out that. Sign up using the link below for 50% off, less than $5 for the lineup generator. Now, as far as super chats go, we've got one more left to answer, and then I want to hit on all of your guys' questions that we have in the Discord channel. Also, one of the perks of being a Stokastic member is you get into Discord. Brett Did Brett leave a super chat or a question anywhere, Jordan, or is it just the celebrate it? Like, I don't see a question in here. Let me check and make sure. Brett, if you have a question, you don't have to leave another super chat. Just throw it into. Oh, here we go. He wants to know what. Here it is. Best tiers plays. He left another message in YouTube. I found it. So yeah, Brett, I'll circle back on this and just go my favorite options for each tier. Tier 1, Giannis. Tier 2, Morant. Tier 3, Donovan Mitchell for me. Tier 4, Jalen Brunson. Tier 5, Evan Mobley. Tier 6, Kevon Looney. And the next super chat here is from Ryan Schnabel. Ryan wants to know, love the show, fellas. Thank you for supporting. By the way, anybody else who loves the show, like it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. 3v3. Giannis. Oh, no. 4v4. Giannis, Sabonis, Poole, Murray, or Bam, Sabonis, Clay, Draymond. All right. So Sabonis on both sides. Basically, any one for me that's going to be any kind of 1v1, 2v2, and one side has Giannis and the other side doesn't. It's the Giannis side for me. So Giannis, Sabonis, Poole, Murray. Yourself, yep. Eric. Sabonis on both sides. So Giannis, Poole, and Murray, or Bam, Clay, and Draymond.
Yeah, I hate Murray as a play today. Pretty sure whatever we just saw in game 4, pretty unsustainable for good old Keegan Murray. But I'm going to have to go the Giannis, Sabonis, Poole, Murray side just because Giannis is there. I have, again, 78% Giannis.
Yeah, same page. Anything with Giannis, the answer is going to be Giannis. Or at 14, underweight on Butler like Josh did or no? Let me see. The current ownership we have on Jimmy Butler.
I really don't have Jimmy Butler today.
Jimmy Butler is, I'll read it off once again for both sites. I know Orad asked a DraftKings question, but just so you guys get the information on both sites, Jimmy Butler is 10,200 on FanDuel and projected for all twos, 22.2% ownership. Jimmy Butler on DraftKings, 9,400 projected for 15% ownership. I know it's uncomfortable, but the opportunity cost of Jimmy Butler is like, you can't play as much of like a Giannis. Like, him and Giannis are not priced that differently. And I just like other pay up options more. So I'm currently underweight to Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have a spat. I understand, but like even myself, I'm not getting to Jimmy Butler, whereas I had a healthy amount last slate.
Yeah, not for me today. And
yeah, not for me.
Projects really well for me on a points per dollar basis. Well, not really well, but fairly well. There's just other guys that project even better. He's the same price point, basically, as Ja Morant and Steph Curry. He's the same price point as Domantas Sabonis. And then, Donovan Mitchell is $700 cheaper. You look at Giannis. Giannis is $1,000 more expensive throughout the regular season. Like, Giannis is pretty regularly $3,000 or so more expensive than Jimmy Butler. So just other guys I like more priced around him. So not going to be a Jimmy Butler day for me. Joseph Corona wants to know who are the top 5 FanDuel cash options. So just talking about cash for FanDuel, these are the players that I think you should be rostering. Dylan Brooks, I think you should be playing in cash on FanDuel. I think you should be playing Evan Mobley in cash on FanDuel. Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo Russell, and one more. Trying to balance like who's really popular with who also is in a bunch of my lineups. So I've given you 4, and I'll say Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. I know it's never comfortable to click on Jaren Jackson Jr. in a cash type format where you know that he had 2 fouls in 2 minutes and then totally blow up your lineup, but he's expected to be popular enough today where we've got him as the 4th most popular player on FanDuel. I think it mitigates some of that risk. Another super chat from James Magruder. First, he wants to know Poole or Brooks. I have more exposure to Brooks.
I have more exposure to Brooks too, but I'm underweight to both.
And then the other part of his question, best plays at each position on DK. The players I have the most exposure to at each position.
So, I mean, this is always a weird question. So best in terms of like our exposure to it, or best in terms of relative to their ownership? Like if we could just list off projection.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could also do who projects the best. I usually just answer this as who I have the most exposure to at each position.
Okay. Then it's going to get wonky because you're going to hear a couple of names that we haven't talked about.
Yeah. So it is Jordan Poole for me at point guard. Who is it for you at point guard?
It is D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah. I like D'Lo as well today. Shooting guard for me. Dylan Brooks is the guy for me there. I know he's popular, but I think it's warranted.
Klay Thompson.
Small forward for me, Josh Hart.
Harrison Barnes.
Power forward, Giannis.
Giannis by a mile.
It's also Giannis for me at center.
Yeah, but underneath that is interesting because the one I have the most of true center is Xavier Tillman.
Yeah, so for me, it's really close between Tillman and Looney.
Yep, they're both. I love them both today.
All right, so let's get into some of your guys' questions. Malcolm Revamp wants to know who are my favorite options for DK tiers. So I'll read that off one more time. DK tiers, tier 1, Giannis, tier 2, John Morant, tier 3, Donovan Mitchell, tier 4, Jalen Brunson, tier 5, Evan Mobley, tier 6, Kevon Looney. Now getting into the Discord questions. We have one here from Miami High Life. Besides Giannis, what pay-up option do we have the most exposure to today? Let's see.
I'll tell you in 2 seconds. So wild seeing Julius Randle's name and not having it be a pay-up now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so wild.
Like Randle is at 6,900. I guess we can't really consider him a pay-up option, but on most slates, Randle would be a pay-up option. So for me, it is Jaren Jackson Jr. behind Giannis.
It is. Oh, that's interesting. We'll talk about him. I have 20%. Never mind. I thought I was off of that one completely. I think we could get egregiously low ownership on LeBron James in a closeout game.
All right. That's not a bad option either. Only projected for 1% ownership. Pat Clay Tomstar. Is Game 6 Clay going to show up a game early?
Hope so, because I have a ton of him.
Eric hopes so. I have him in my player pool, but he's not like one of my most rostered players. I know Eric said before that he's one of his most rostered shooting guards. Yeah. He's in there for me, not one of my most rostered. I mean, the most like considering what people associate Game 6 Clay with, I'm going to say no, because that's like an absurd expectation for anybody.
Right. Come on. I mean, I just think that he's going to be relative to his ownership right now. He's sub 20%, and knowing how popular Jordan Poole is when I'm pretty sure Draymond Green starts, I think I'm a little bit more confident than you are that Draymond starts based on what we saw in that second half and played a boatload of minutes. Jordan Poole is basically out there in games that I think Golden State feels like they have control of. You get on the road here in this spot, like if Jordan Poole comes down and knocks down a couple of shots in his first rotation off the bench, like I'm assuming, if he starts, this is a different conversation, but assuming he comes off the bench, there's paths where he doesn't play 20 minutes in this game. And I'm very happy to be under that ownership and just on Draymond Green at 10%. Like I know that when they announce the starting deal, it'll swap and we'll have to be updating that ownership constantly. But as it stands right now, Jordan Poole, give me less. Klay Thompson, give me more.
Gavin Williams wants to know the must plays for FanDuel each position. So I'll tell you who I have the most exposure to at each position on FanDuel. Gabe Vincent at shooting guard, Dylan Brooks at shooting guard, also Dylan Brooks at small forward, Andrew Wiggins, another really good option if you're looking to get another one. So I don't have Dylan Brooks at both of those there. Power forward, Evan Mobley, and then center. It's like all the power forwards and centers are almost the same players on FanDuel. So the other guys that behind Evan Mobley, then also Jaren Jackson Jr., Domantas Sabonis, but also guys who have both power forward and center eligibility. Nearly everybody on FanDuel, power forward and center tonight. So let's see what else we have here. Next question is from Einsteinium. Thoughts on Gabe Vincent? Does he play more if the game gets out of hand? He plays more if he's playing well. That's what we've seen from the Heat's point guard rotation and their guards in general. Oh, cool. Kyle Lowry's making all the shots. Kyle Lowry plays 30 plus minutes. Gabe Vincent's playing good defense. He's dishing out well. It's Gabe Vincent. Kyle Lowry plays like 8 minutes. It's whoever plays well. Gabe Vincent's my favorite because he's generally been the guy that they have gone to. And then also just the fact that he starts gives him, a leg up to be able to play well first of any of those guys. So I like Gabe Vincent. He's one of my favorite value options.
Yeah, he's cheaper and he gives you multi-positional eligibility. I'm a little bit under 30%, but I'm just about there, 26. So like I think Gabe Vincent definitely makes sense. I only have 4% Kyle Lowry. I'm not sure if that's a mistake or not, but 4,700, don't really find him all that necessary today.
Next question is from the Black Mamba 81. He wants to know, who are the top 5 players who have the most exposure to on DK? So position agnostic, just overall top 5 most rostered players.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Evan Mobley, D'Angelo Russell, Harrison Barnes, and now Julius Randle, my last run.
Yeah, Randle for me as well. Giannis, but I'm playing 20 lineups for NBA DK today. I have Giannis in all 20 of them. So Giannis, Randle, Poole, Hart, and Dylan Brooks. One of my nemesis is unfortunately Dylan Brooks, but I can't, like, if I went heavy Dylan Brooks and Jimmy Butler, it'd be very, very anti-brand. But Jimmy Butler, I play Jimmy Butler all the time in DFS. As much as I make stupid jokes about him, it doesn't impact how I roster him in DFS. Same with Dylan Brooks. I don't like Dylan Brooks at all for anything, but DFS, I'm playing him today. Next question here is from Sick Mosh. He wants to know, who is my favorite pay-up option for FanDuel Cash? So for cash games on FanDuel, I don't think you have to pay all the way up for somebody.
Nope.
It's a little bit different, right? Because Giannis is 12,000 on FanDuel. If you have the ability to get to him, cool. But he's only projected for 10% ownership. I can't call him a must play in FanDuel cash games. If I had to say the one that I think is the highest priority, it is Sabonis for cash games on FanDuel, or Jaren Jackson Jr. for considering him a payout.
Yep, agreed.
The next question here is from JEW. Favorite chalk play and favorite low owned play for DK single entry. So let me.
What do you want to use as a threshold?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, like, what are we considering?
I mean, Giannis is our favorite popular, right?
Yes. But also,
That's
he's
easy.
27% owned. It's not like he's massively popular in large field tournaments.
We have way more. Again, the people are insane. Closeout game in Milwaukee, 10-4. I'm playing all the Giannis, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Giannis is my favorite chalk play. Favorite low-owned play?
I mean, Harrison Barnes really isn't getting any attention today, and it's one guy that I'm a little surprised. When you have such minute certainty on a guy like Harrison Barnes, who's 5,300, is going to just go out there, get your rebounds. It hasn't been very pretty the last two in Golden State, but he was playing 34 minutes pretty routinely there. And the only reason, he ended up 30 there for a second. It was kind of a weird situation with Sacramento where De'Aaron Fox got so hot. They brought Davion Mitchell off the bench because they wanted to keep him guarding Steph, and it kind of cut into the minutes of a couple of the other ancillary pieces just because they wanted Mitchell to get more run. But Harrison Barnes at 5,300, small forward positionality. We're getting a lot of other guys that are way more popular, and I feel pretty comfortable with his minutes. Look at Poole. Like, what are those minutes going to look like? Let's say Dylan Brooks isn't knocking down shots. Do they take him off the floor? There are times that they've limited him in the past. He played 41 last time around, but got ejected. Only played 22 and 29 minutes in games 1 and 2. So I think that there's a floor there for sure. So guys who are getting 3 times as much ownership. So I'm really happy to be firing away on some of these mid-range guys. Even Austin Reeves, 5,800, getting no attention. And I just want to get more of them because, it's pretty easy to see paths where they play 36, 38 minutes.
Yeah, people are going to hate this answer, but Bam Adebayo for me, I'm overweight too. And he's cheap. He was not necessarily terrible last game from a real life perspective. He got in foul trouble super early. And I know people were really in the camp of like, Bam Adebayo is terrible. Why would I ever play him in DFS last time? And I was like, I still think Bam Adebayo is worth playing a whole bunch of at a relatively cheap price point. And then we're 3 minutes into the game. He has 2 personal fouls. He comes off the court. I was like, oh, this is going to go poorly for me. But I like getting back to
mistakes were made.
I like getting back to Bam. He hasn't been as bad as people generally think. He's played pretty well from a points per minute perspective. Foul trouble last game. He had another game where he lost run due to a blowout. But, by and large part, he's scoring over a fantasy point per minute for the series. We have seen a ceiling from him. He scored as many as 45, and his price points come down. So Bam for me. Next question here is from... I already answered that. Gangrene. Am I crazy to make Morant my pay up in single entry? Not at all.
Nope, not at all.
XX Cubs fan 23. How much Giannis do I have on FanDuel? In the lineups built, I got to 20%, which is about double where he is projected for. So am overweight to Giannis, but not quite as strong with play on draft. He's $1,600 more expensive on FanDuel. Not like making him unplayable, but does make him not the 100% guy like he is for me on DK. Jay wants to know top projected players for the 2-game late slate. I'm going to answer that after we get to lock. Sean Sullivan Jr., best captain and cheap option for the Knicks Cavs showdown. Okay.
5
I
minutes
didn't
to
build
go
out
here.
lineups for that. If
I
I'm just
didn't
going to
either.
base it off of who I played in classic contests, though, cheap option.
I just uploaded my lineup, so nothing's going to change here for me. So I'm happy to take a look at it here and let me run a batch.
Cheap option, Josh Hart. Does Julius Randle count as a cheap option? Because it would be him. Pay up option, though, it is Donovan Mitchell. I think he's going to play a ton today.
I am with you. My God, the 1K punt. Like we just talked about it. Danny Green. Ooh, that's disgusting. He's in the first lineup that I crunched.
Next question. Clintwood 83. Planning for Fox not to play. Any Kings viable for... Don't plan for Fox not to play. He's going to play.
Yeah, he's going to play basketball. Whether or not he's effective, different conversation.
And also, even if Fox doesn't play great, like I don't think there's an obvious benefactor from the Kings because I don't think they're just going to... Unless it's like truly disastrous and he's a lot of pain. Like I already like Sabonis. You could just say more of Sabonis. But Fox is going to play, and I'm not too concerned about it.
And I mean, I was in love with Fox last slate. That was probably the best situation, and now he's down 8,800. But with the Q tag next to it, I'm not sure really what I want to do here with Fox yet. I'm going to be able to react to how my lineups are doing. I think that's going to matter a little bit more for what I decide to do with Fox than anything. Might turn some Curry into him, might turn some Giannis into him if it really goes poorly in the first 2 games here. We're going to have 2.5 hours up until what? Yeah, Lakers, Memphis tips off there. And then we have 2.5 hours till that Golden State Sacramento game. You have a game half an hour before it. You're going to want to be swapping and adjusting to both the starting lineup of Golden State and then however your lineups are doing.
Now, the next question we have here is from Swaz, wants to know thoughts on Quickly. There's clearly upside there, right? Because, I mean, Emmanuel Quickly, we saw him multiple times over the couple last months of the regular season. He would close games over RJ Barrett. I think Quickly's better than RJ Barrett.
Agreed.
It's just his playing time is so difficult to predict. It goes all over the place. But if Quickly's making shots and he has extra opportunity for playing time because there's going to be no Quentin Grimes, the minutes are definitely not secure, but I like him in large field tournaments.
Yeah, I think one of the major things that has kind of turned me off from playing Emmanuel Quickly in this postseason is the fact that he was playing 37 and 40 minutes in meaningless basketball games at the end of the regular season. I'm pretty positive it would take a lot for Emmanuel Quickly based on that to start to close over an RJ Barrett or a Josh Hart or something of that nature. I think it's pretty clear cut that they know who they want Emmanuel Quickly to be. Did he play phenomenal in the second half of that season? Absolutely. But it was that Boston game. It was a spot start. And I don't think Jalen Brunson was there. Jalen Brunson got dinged up. And I think we're kind of looking through a different lens with Emmanuel Quickly. I really find him to be difficult. And it seems as though he always pulls 8 to 15% ownership on every single one of these slates. And I've just been passing every time.
And some more questions that we have here in Discord. This one is from Strickstein. Last man in for utility on DK, 3,300 or lower.
3,300 or lower on DK utility. Let me just tell you. I can tell you it's not pretty.
Yeah, it's not going to be somebody good. The one that projects the best for me is unfortunately Chetty Osman.
I have 8% Chetty Osman. He's not a nothing on this slate for me.
Does
like 1% below. It does by 1%. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Yep, that's the right answer. Yep, Rose.
That is my answer.
Rose.
Sotex, FanDuel, GPP, Hart or Monk. I prefer Hart to Monk today. And then one final question from JEW2. From JEW, Middleton or Brunson? Let's see. Who do I have more of between Middleton and Brunson? That for me is it's so close. Middleton though.
Middleton.
All right. That brings us to lock. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't go anywhere. Eric and I, for the next 30 minutes, going to be doing our post-lock show. We're going to be checking out what happened. And by the way, these games are starting very quick. Have you taken notice of this?
It's been great. It's been fantastic.
Start on time. I don't know why playoff games could start on time, but like a Thursday night game between the Pelicans and the Kings on TNT has to start 18 minutes late. But playoffs, they've got it nailed down.
Well, I think they want to get as many advertising like in the prime windows as humanly possible, whereas like they can kind of finagle it during the regular season.
Maybe I couldn't tell you what the reason is. Better than any reason I could come up with. So who knows? I don't understand why games never start on time in the NBA regular season, but playoffs, they've been a little bit better about it. So we're going to be sweating those games. We're going to be giving some updated picks. We haven't heard from Eric yet on his picks for the NBA playoffs, because so far I did a show with Ryan where we looked at some teams that we thought could go deep in the playoffs, and we tried to find some so rare sleepers based on some of the teams we thought could go deep. We got an update from Neil last week, and now Eric is going to weigh in with where he stands on everything in the NBA playoffs. And if you guys have questions, comments, or want to weigh in on who you guys think are going to win the NBA championship, you could throw that into the YouTube chat as well and read some of that off. And as for So Rare, if you guys haven't signed up yet, it is totally free to do so. But if you sign up using the link that we have below in the description box and you decide to buy some limited player cards, you purchase 5 of them, you are going to get a 6th one for free. And some of those contests too, where you play limited cards, you have opportunities to win some really good prizes. For instance, a Giannis that now was won a couple months ago, maybe even 3 months ago in a tournament, sold on the secondary market for nearly $200,000. So some of the stuff you could win there does end up being quite valuable. Now, let's see. Oh, right. I want to answer Jay's question because Jay had left us the question in Discord about favorite options for the 2-game slate. And I just didn't have lineups built for that. So I have them built now. So I'm going to go back, and Jay had asked us top projected players for the 2-game late slate. So the late slate is Miami, Milwaukee, and it is Golden State, Sacramento. If I go by position, these are the players I got the most of for that late slate. Jordan Poole at point guard, Gabe Vincent at shooting guard, Andrew Wiggins at small forward, Giannis at power forward, Giannis also at center, but Kevon Looney, the other center there. So Jay, that's where I ended up getting to just by position. Overall, the top projected players, though, it's number 1 for me, Giannis, 2, Steph Curry, 3, Domantas Sabonis. So I tried to attack this from multiple angles. Hopefully, just by throwing shit at the wall, I answered what it was that you were intending.
Sounded good to me.
And cool. We are caught up on everybody's questions. So now, Eric, haven't really gotten any of your takes on the NBA playoffs because you're a big timer now, right? You're too cool for this show. You're off to bigger and better things over on the Odd Shopper channel. You guys should be checking out all the videos that Eric does over there, as well as the Odd Shop show that he does every day live, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Odd Shopper and check out what Eric is doing on that channel. Just in general, though, because I haven't heard, who's your pick to win the NBA Finals?
Philadelphia.
Oh, even
I changed it after game 1 of Philadelphia. Okay. So I am in love with this iteration of Tobias Harris right now. I don't know if anybody's actually watching the games or if you're just playing DFS and reacting to what the box scores look like or whatever else. But if you did either one of those things, Tobias Harris is playing on a different stratosphere. And the knee is a big question mark. But now they get the extra rest facing Boston. I already picked them to beat Boston coming off of game 1 of Philly. Basically just kind of put my feet in the sand. We had wishy-washy Philly fans over there too who didn't necessarily feel the same way, which, again, I understand after your Eagles debacle in the Super Bowl. Totally understandable. But I am a little bit more bullish on this basketball team. If you have Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey providing as much ammunition as what I think they can in future series, especially a series against Boston, especially a series, as you're going down the line against Miami, like you could end up having a really good draw going into that Western Conference. And again, Golden State's in the middle of a gauntlet. Denver, I don't trust until they actually do it. It's still to be decided there. I think Philadelphia, if Embiid's knee is okay to play 30 minutes a game, I'm just fine taking Philly as my pick.
So, I don't mind Philly as an upset pick but I'm so uncertain because it does seem like at the very least, Embiid isn't going to be ready for the start of the series. That seems fairly.
I think he is. If it's going to be Monday, so Saturday was originally going to be the date if Boston closed it out. Now, if they win, it would be Monday. They're only 6.5 point favorites going into Atlanta for this next game. DeJounte Murray back. I feel like that's a spot where they could still get tripped up. And then you're going back to Boston. That series wouldn't start until a week from today. So Boston's got to really figure it out because every day that ticks is a day that Joel Embiid is healthier. And that is not what you want if you're Boston with a limited Robert Williams, who's playing more minutes, and we finally saw it come to fruition. But I think you're going to really need Robert Williams to perform there. And the more minutes he has to log in this series, that's not boding well for the Sixers series.
Yeah, it's so hard without knowing, because the only update we've gotten is from Glenn Rivers, who's not a doctor. It doesn't matter what he calls himself. The man is no doctorate, right? Absolutely
He's
not.
really not.
Really not. But he said it's unlikely that Joel Embiid is going to be ready for the start of the series. It's just such a vague statement that I don't know what that means. Does it mean that he was just expecting he wasn't going to be ready for game one? Does it mean that he wasn't going to be ready for the first couple of games? So with all that in mind, the Sixers were totally healthy. Like, yeah, I don't mind it, but there's enough risk to where I don't find them to be the most likely team to win the finals just based on
but you asked me, like,
yeah.
I'm also thinking it from a betting perspective. Like, what do I want to have happen? Like, I'm very confident that Philadelphia is undervalued in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, what is I did bet. So when we first got the Glenn update, I did go out right away and bet this. So I have the Celtics at plus 185 to win the East. That's the only bet I have on an Eastern Conference team right now.
Interesting.
Those were the odds on Boston before the Joel Embiid news came out. Then Glenn goes out, he makes that announcement. He says he's not sure if he's going to be ready. And the Celtics went from plus 185 to win the East to minus 110. So that's where they are right now. Minus 110 is way overvalued. I don't think the Celtics are north of 50% chance to win Eastern Conference.
Sixers were 10-1. That's what they're sitting at. It's wild to me.
I think a lot of that though is just I don't know what they were before. Do you know what they were before the NBA?
They were 5. I didn't pay attention until after the injury, and then I basically wanted to bet them leading into. They got to 12-1, and I didn't pull the trigger on that. Came back to 10-1 when news was that he wasn't going to just like be out indefinitely. But when he was out for that game, it moved away from Philly, and they still found a way to sweep Brooklyn there. 9-1. I'm looking at the board now here. Boston, way too short for my opinion. Phoenix, you have all the tickets and all the land. You absolutely smashed that call. You guys want to be checking out. Chalkboard and having Greg's updates in there, because his Phoenix Suns call, just the most likely and the only really situation Kevin Durant could walk into, was spot on. I think he got 25-1 tickets there.
I'd have to look at because I posted it on Twitter, but it was a very long time ago. I haven't looked at it. Also, I don't totally agree that the Suns should be favored. Like, the Suns are pretty big favorites over Denver. I might bet Denver to win the series, or I might bet Denver plus 1.5 games, and then I have an out where like, hey, maybe
double dip.
Maybe the Suns win the series 4-3, and I've got both sides of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Suns are my biggest rooting interest right now, just because I bet them right before the Kevin Durant trade. But like, if I'm just being realistic, I don't think they're the most likely team to win I would love them to, but I don't think they're the most likely team to win the finals. I'll go, all things considered, I do think Boston is the most likely team to win right now, but not one I'd go out and bet at their current number.
So wild. Maybe I'm just watching different basketball, and maybe I still have just so many questions about what Boston's going to do. And not because of yesterday. Like, yesterday doesn't affect my thinking about this at all. It existed before the postseason started, where I flat out said, I think both of these conferences are more wide open than people are giving them credit for. And Boston and Phoenix are both the shortest. Do I agree they should be the shortest? Absolutely. But that means there's so much value, because I think it's far more likely that, it's 2-1 that Boston still wins the NBA Finals. So it's like, if you want to just crown them, a little bit of a Denny Green action for those who know, but Philadelphia plus 900 over on DK. That seems like a number you want to be behind.
Yeah. For the odds, particularly, you're really taking a gamble on Joel Embiid's health. So I don't mind that side of it. Like I said, if I'm just picking one team I think is most likely to win, it would be the Boston Celtics. And by the way, if you guys are looking for a sportsbook to sign up for and you want a little bit of extra added bonus for it, sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below, and that will come with 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So we got that link below that you could click on in the description box and get that little added benefit.
Robinson, Jesus Christ, dude.
Is he going nuts?
Oh my fuck. 3 points, 5 boards, 2 blocks, 1 steal. My God.
Yeah, so Mitchell Robinson absolutely destroying right now. who is not doing well is basically anybody else in this game. The score is 10-7, nearly halfway through the first quarter. And so Mitchell Robinson, only 3 real life points. Julius Randle, not on the scoreboard. Josh Hart, not on the scoreboard. Jared Allen, not, and by the way, by not on the scoreboard, I don't just mean don't have points. Don't even have any other stats. Jared Allen, goose egg. Donovan Mitchell, goose egg. So it's, but Julius Randle does have a point and an assist. But yeah, not too much happening from a fantasy standpoint other than Mitchell Robinson. Rebounding.
I want to, Karis LeVert just smashing too. It's just smashing.
Karis LeVert, he's 3 points a rebound and an assist, unless something happens since I looked last.
Better than the other shitty guys I rostered in this stupid game.
That
Josh
is-
Hart, nice negative 0.5 in 5 minutes. Way to go, pal. Good job, good effort. I ended up below the field. Did you see his ownership, by the way? I was right about that.
No, I haven't looked at any of the contests.
Guess.
So
And the
if you
$20
say-
on DK.
If you say that you were right, then 38%.
34.
Okay.
He was 25. We had him for 25. He ended up 34.
Because the reason I said is I thought that was the number you said as a reference point before. It's like if he ends
No.
up being 38% owned. So I just wanted to bring that up because
I did the flippy floppy. I played 35% RJ Barrett. I played 20% of Josh Hart. I just flip flopped them, and then RJ Barrett ended up 22.69%. So it's basically that 10% gap that we talked about, where it just made sense. We had him projected within 4, but like just by deductive reasoning, based on last game, you kind of knew Josh Hart was going to get steamed up.
And he's on the board. He just made a bucket. So Josh
Hey,
Hart,
celebrate.
he's not going to score negative fantasy points today. Just hit a bucket.
There you
Super
go.
chat from D Buff. He wants to know John Morant and Pat Connaughton or Drew Holiday and Xavier Tillman. So of those players,
Connaughton, no thank you.
he's just my least favorite by a mile. So
Mile.
I prefer Morant to Drew, but I prefer Tillman over Connaughton much more than the other way on the other side. So yeah, Drew Holiday and Xavier Tillman.
Mitchell Robinson, he's going to make us have to do some really weird things, I think, with center. Like, he's true center, so there's only 2 lineup spots that Mitchell Robinson can show up in. And now you have like Xavier Tillman. There's a lot of power forwards that can still beat him, and it's still super, super early in the game. He didn't close last game after smashing early too. So it's just one of those things like late swap. We have to look at it from the lens of like, you also have to play the positionality game within the late swap game rather than just like, oh, well, I'm drawing dead now. I don't have Mitchell Robinson. I'm going to go to these weak plays. No, you need to like get more centers in your life, like more Looney, more Tillman.
Yeah, let me see. I ended up on a lot of Looney. I mean, a lot of Looney and Tillman.
Yeah. I only have 15% Mitchell Robinson. That sucks. That sucks. Way lower than you would expect. Like way lower, buddy. You want to guess?
He did just get a rebound stat corrected away from him. So he doesn't.
Oh, well, now we're fine. With his 13.5 he has in less than 6 minutes and just smashing this game's face in. He has 15.86%. So way less popular than was projected. And that was everywhere. It's not like it's one individual event.
Do you know how many fantasy points Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell have combined for?
2.
Negative 0.5.
Oh, good. Well, I have 0. I have 5% Donovan Mitchell, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Negative 0.5 for the 2 of them combined.
That's really bad.
Yeah, I just went to my Twitter. I was looking for some updates and realized that somebody blocked me.
Oh, are you sad? Are you sad, Greggy?
Well, I'm kind of happy. So what ended up happening was we're about to start the show. I'm trying to upload my baseball lineups, and we didn't have the Pirates starting lineup. The Pirates were ridiculously slow to update their lineup.
Yep.
It was a 6, and we usually get baseball lineups well in advance. It was 6:35 Eastern time start time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We don't have the starting lineup yet. So I tweeted, where's this Pirates starting lineup at? And then the lineup comes out a couple minutes later. And what this guy does, total dickhead, he copies and pastes the tweet from Underdog and just tweets as if he's the one who's delivering the lineup. And so I said, good job copying and pasting from Underdog. And then he just blocked me. I don't know what he said afterwards because he blocked me and then put other replies that I can't read. So I was trying to figure out what it was that he said to me.
It's like Parks and Rec, the worst.
Yeah. Didn't get to find out what it was. I'll go on burner later just to see what his tweet was. I don't even have a burner, but I'm going to have to make one just for this.
Seems like appropriate.
Yeah, gotta know. So let's go through some of the other Eastern Conference teams relative to what's going on with SoRare as well. Let's try to find some sleepers that we like, and we'll give some predictions as we go as well. So we got the Bucks Heat playing later today. Series right now 3-1. Heat have the lead over the Bucks. How realistic do you find it to be for the Bucks to come back and win the series? What odds would you give them of that happening? And then if you had to pick one player to invest in the future of for this series for SoRare purposes, and obviously it's going to be informed somewhat based on who you think is going to win, who is the value option you look at for SoRare to have going forward for the series? But Bucks versus Heat, who do you pick to win now?
I mean, it's a lot closer than you'd probably think for a 3-1 situation. I think the implied odds are around 45%, 44% based on the books as it stands right now. So just implied percentage being what are the odds, and then, mathing it out. Yeah, I would set it right around there. 45%, Bucks winning 3 in a row, which is a wild thing to say, but they're just a much better basketball team than Miami. And it took a crazy outlier performance from one guy. Now, can that one guy put up another crazy outlier performance? Very, very capable. He has 3 cracks at it, but that's the kind of stuff I think it's going to take. They are massive, massive dogs, 12-point dogs as it stands right now. I feel pretty good that Milwaukee will win today. I feel less good about game 6, like you shouldn't. I mean, they're going to Miami, but if they win that one, if they win 2 in a row, it's so hard to envision that they wouldn't be minus 600 at home in that spot for a closeout game. So yeah, I'll put it right around 40%. And then value pieces, like for Milwaukee, they're going to have a more tightened rotation. I do think Wesley Matthews jumps into it after being out since game 1. I think Jay Crowder pretty clearly going to be going away after not playing a minute in game 4 it was. And now, I mean, what's Middleton going for right now? Because, I mean, Middleton and Drew Holiday have not been themselves. I'm very much on the side of Drew Holiday for this basketball game specifically, but curious your thoughts on him.
Yeah, so Drew Holiday specifically?
Yeah, and then Chris Middleton too. Just the 2 guys that aren't Giannis.
Yeah, so, I mean, for SoRare, especially now, so the next slate starts next week, and I think the most likely scenario is that the Heat win the series. They're up 3-1. It's fun. Each individual game, I would favor the Bucks to win. But on the whole, I still think the Heat have a better chance of winning 1 game than the Bucks are winning 3 games in a row. So with that in mind, I wouldn't really be looking to invest in Bucks players because we are looking to buy players for the rest of the playoffs, the way that these contests work. From the Heat, Tyler Hero, I assume I'm going to go with Gabe Vincent. I think he keeps.
Okay.
I think he sticks in the starting lineup. And then also relatively cheap for SoRare purposes. The 2 players who are cheap that are benefiting from the absence of Tyler Hero right now are Kevin Love and Gabe Vincent. And I just lean a little bit more towards Gabe Vincent right now.
I'm just happy that Kadai Sanga isn't just walking every human being in the first inning. That made me happy. No, just 1 walk, just the one. I saw the 1 walk come through and I just about vomited because I was like, I'm going to get another 4 or 5 walk from this guy because I feel like I play him 60% every slate.
Yeah, I got it. It didn't strike anybody out in the first inning, unfortunately, but
yeah. That's okay. I'll live with it.
Down there. The other series in the East, so I still feel very confident the Celtics beat the Hawks.
I feel very confident, yes.
And if I had to invest in one player going forward from the Celtics, pretty easy for me. I think Robert Williams stands the most to gain going forward.
Agreed.
Wouldn't be shocked if he's in the starting lineup. The weirdest thing that happened this series was the Grant Williams game. Grant Williams has not been in the rotation at all. And then 1 game he was ahead of Robert Williams in the rotation, absolutely crushed that slate. It was like, whatever Wizards were playing Grant Williams that day, go fuck yourself for ruining that night. Because why are you playing Grant Williams? He hadn't played in any of the games to that point. He hasn't played since, but for whatever reason, people decided to play Grant Williams. Not a lot of them, but
just
some people.
Nuke.
Robert Williams for me. He stands to gain the most from the Celtics going forward.
Agreed.
And then Celtics. Any scenario where you see the Hawks end up winning the series?
No, almost 0.
And then if we talk about your 76ers, I'm calling them your 76ers.
Yeah, it's so disgusting. Don't attach me to anything from Philadelphia like that. Don't, please never.
You are a big fan of Philadelphia 76ers and best friend to Mike Lawrence. You are everything Philadelphia. 76ers. if you had to go with one player to invest in for the rest of the playoffs from Philadelphia, who would you buy stock in from this team? You are predicting them, not predicting the win, but your favorite value on the board relative to odds.
I don't know.
Okay.
Let me pull it up here.
I thought you were going to go Tobias Harris based on what you said about him before.
Well, I mean, I love Tobias Harris. Tyrese Maxey, my God, he's so good. And my thing is like the upside, it's just nice to see Clippers Tobias Harris back to a certain extent. Like that was the best version I've seen of Tobias Harris. And it was after game 1 and he continued to just be that good. And we just kept jamming him every single slate. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, probably going to be Tobias Harris looking at some of the prices. Otherwise, Tyrese Maxey as well. Harden, Embiid, you kind of know what you're getting there too. I'd also say Paul Reed. I mean, Paul Reed, we've been playing this flip-flop game of like not knowing what Glenn Rivers was going to do with the center position. It's pretty clear cut that Paul Reed's going to play a shit ton of minutes in spots where Joel Embiid's limited or out. And that just makes him kind of a can't miss considering you'll have an entire week of it. And in the event that I'm wrong and Embiid doesn't play in the first 2 games of the series, they lose both of those in Boston, go back into Philly, you're getting some pretty high upside stuff for a contest that could, it's guaranteed to start at least on Monday for that series. And then Wednesday would be the potential if Atlanta somehow wins game 6 there. There's a lot of upside to be getting to Paul Reed right now.
There's a lot of talk right now about the scenario with I saw I got a Twitter alert from it. Do you know what happened with Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, I saw the chair thing. I don't know what happened with it, but like I didn't see a video of it.
Yeah, I'm not I saw there was some altercation. I haven't looked too much into it to be informed enough about what happened though. Anthony Edwards. Let's see if there's a video somewhere I could find.
I didn't see the video.
Oh, here's the video. All right, so here we go. Oh, really? A law enforcement source said Edwards picked up a chair and swung it, striking a security guard. That does not appear to be what happened based on the video. It looks like he kind of pushed a chair and it maybe touched the knee of a security guard. Unless I'm missing something here where there was additional angle to it or something. Yeah, this doesn't look like. I'll have to look for more.
Stop it.
Are you looking at the same video as me? It looks
picked up a chair and swung it.
Doesn't it kind of look like it was maybe he was frustrated, he's running out, there's a chair in his way, he kind of pushes it aside.
He picked it up beforehand. So I'm doing the slow-mo. I'm reacting to this in real time. He picked it up pretty early. So if you go slow-mo on the NBA Central, is that where you're looking at it?
Yeah, but it also kind of looks so but also keep in mind the video's 4 seconds or 3 seconds. So to me, here's just my vantage point on this one angle of a 3-second video. It looks like he's running off the court based on where the video starts. So the video starts in like not the most ideal spot. I would like to see the video be a little bit.
He picks it up. Oh, hang on. So if you go to NBA Central, he literally picks up the chair at the end of the bench. So he carries it for a little ways and then swings it.
But swing is, it looks
to
me
swing is a terrible word for it because, I mean, that thing had no momentum whatsoever. Swung it, striking a security guard. Let me see that security guard's leg. I think you're fine. Like, that's absurd.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit longer of the video. But to me,
I saw that clip of him running off. Like, when you were watching it live, obviously, he missed the shot. And then he's sprinting off while everybody else on the team goes to congratulate Denver. So that was a weird thing, but like, yeah, he picks it up pretty early, but yeah, calling that a swing is pretty absurd.
It didn't look malicious to me. It didn't look 0%. Like it had intent. It looked, once again, what it looked like to me, at least in that 3-second video, is that there's a chair that's kind of.
Hello?
Am I gone or
you were gone? Oh. I thought it was me for a second.
Yeah, let's finish this out. A few minutes left to go. Also, I want to check to see what ended up happening.
Craig,
in the rest of the. Oh, did I get frozen? Like,
you kind of did the Two-Face.
Nice.
Heads or tails?
I don't remember what Two-Face sounded like in the movies.
He kind of did this. It was kind of Bruce Wayne. He's got Gotham. A little bit of that.
Doesn't strike a bell. That's not how I remember it sounding.
You took everything from me.
How come your eyes go cross when you do that?
Because he's Two-Face. He just got blown up in the side of his face.
Some more results from the first quarter of the Knicks Cavs. By the way, Knicks up 8 points right now.
Let's
On
go.
the Cleveland Cavaliers. How realistic do you think it is for the Knicks to make a deep postseason run?
I mean, I want to say it. I mean, you look at dunks and threes for a long time in the premium Discord. We have been riding Knicks money line, the Josh Hart acquisition, and we just started firing it nonstop. They moved up to sixth in adjusted net rating, like almost instantly. They've been a top 6 team in terms of, pretty much any adjusted offensive rating for the last 4 months, which is wild because you don't think about them that way. They're a slower paced team. From a DFS perspective, we talk about Randall and Brunson, and then we kind of move on with our lives, unless, Quickly's backing somebody up there. But they've just quietly been so much better than people think. But yet, even in the back of my mind, come playoff time, it's very hard for me to envision a scenario where the Knicks get to the Eastern Conference Finals, let alone win the Eastern Conference Finals.
The matchups could have, we are going, if they play the Heat in the next round.
Yeah, then you're sitting there perfect. That'd be absurd.
I'm picking the Knicks to win that series if it's Knicks Heat.
I would too, probably. But again, winning the Eastern Conference Finals, beating Boston or Philly, explain that one to me. I do not see that.
Yeah, I don't see that either. Wouldn't see that. But the other thing too about the Knicks is the last few years under Thibodeau, this hasn't been a great playoff team because how do so many playoff teams get better relative to the regular season? Well, if you are the Milwaukee Bucks, you go from playing Giannis 33 minutes a game to 40 minutes. That's a massive upgrade for your team. The Knicks starters play so many minutes in the regular season, they don't really get that kind of benefit. But they still played really well here so far in the playoffs.
I mean, Jalen Brunson's just a dude, right? That's what it comes down to. You have a guy that can make efficient, smart, correct offensive basketball decisions on every single possession. He did it with Dallas. We shouldn't be all that surprised, but yet we are. He's just so damn good on the offensive end.
We've got a super chat here from WS. Good suggestion. Photoshop that for the next promo. I know exactly what you're talking about too. We could get the Two-Face mask on it, get a Two-Face photoshopped on him.
Took everything from me.
Yeah. And you look really handsome like that too. I'm a great idea from WS. Great idea. I can't star super chats, but if I could, I would. Let's move to the Western Conference to close us out here. Who is your pick to win the West as of now?
I mean, Phoenix.
Denver for me.
You still like Denver? Relative to odds, again, I didn't know what the curriculum was. Relative to odds. For me, I still have that strong feeling if Joel Embiid's healthy, I think Philadelphia is the better team between them and Boston, and is a chasm of difference in the betting market. So it kind of falls in both ways there. I feel like the rightful favorites are Phoenix, but yeah, I would definitely be inclined to take a shot on Denver because seems as though having Jamal Murray matters. We forget how many times that guy's been out during playoff basketball and just been out in general for this Nuggets team. What a difference maker to just be able to offensively create so much. It's the same thing with Jalen Brunson. You have these guys that have extra utility, these wings, whether it was a Jay Crowder or a PJ Tucker or guys like that come playoff time are so much more valuable. But having somebody who can just go and get you a bucket when things aren't going well offensively or when Julius Randle isn't existing, what a fantastic spot. By the way, Randle 5-5-3. That's great stuff.
Yep. Randle looking good right now. Like you mentioned, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. So feeling pretty good about that because we don't need a ceiling game out of Julius Randle relative to his price point. He's $6,900. If you go out and you get 40 fantasy points from Julius Randle, feeling pretty good about him on this slate relative to his price. So that is going to do it for us today, guys. If you have not done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for sticking around for the last 30 minutes, which I assume you did, because if you didn't, you're not hearing this message right now. But tomorrow night, we are going to be back, and there's going to be an NFL draft show tomorrow as well. So some live reactions to the draft, talking about the massive underdog contest as well. $15 million prize pool for the big underdog best ball contest this year. So we got some guys on there tomorrow. Neil Orfield's going to be on. Got Nick Lepre coming back. We've got Isaiah, who, if you guys haven't seen Isaiah yet, he's somebody newer who's doing content for us, but super sharp with college football. And so they're going to be breaking down the NFL draft, start of the first round tomorrow. So go check that out right after NBA Live Before Lock tomorrow night. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.
Senga sucks. God